Welcome back to Passions Podcast, the podcast where we talk about the soap opera passions. I'm your regular host, Latara, back today with Lisa.
Hi, I'm so happy to be back.
We're so happy to have you back, Lisa.
Oh, thank you.
I almost forgot I had my soundboard hooked back up. No, we're so glad to have you back. Lisa is a long-time listener, long-time friend of the show.
Original.
Like OG, and I love that. So thank you for being here. And also, Lisa always just has like great takes. And
oh my God, my notes.
Hilarious.
It's, you know what's funny? When I read my notes, it sounds like a show I hate. Like, like it's so funny. Like, girl, why did you, like, no, I took like 3 pages of notes, and you read them, you're like, no, you hate this. Why are you doing this?
No, I feel like my notes sometimes air on like, what the hell do you like this show? Because why are you calling everybody idiots and maniacs? So we're gonna get into the episodes here soon. We watched 7:16 through 7:20. Yes. Okay. All right. So before we talk about that, let's give a big, happy, warm shout out to all of the patrons over on Patreon. Thank you to Munashe, Breland, Lisa, Sid, Sarana, Randall, Hannah, Camelia, Samantha, Jeanette, Eric, Fantasia, Sean S., Larissa, Maria, George Lopez Fitzgerald, Lisa, Jessica Jean, Laura, Karen, Uche, Paige, Casey, Garage, Tom Bergeron, Pablo, Daisy, Shane, Kelly, and our latest and newest member, Taylor Harris Crane. I love that we have like a few like patrons who have had some fun with their names, you know, Taylor Harris Crane and Greg Lopez Fitzgerald. That's what I say, George Lopez. Greg Lopez Fitzgerald. I love. So thank you all for being patrons. And again, I've said this a million times. I'm gonna just say it every time. I do this show for y'all.
We're gonna keep paying you to do it for us. So
yeah, no, I do it for you. So thank you. And if you're not a patron but would like to become one, please go over to patreon.com/passionspodcast and sign up for whatever tier you find most agreeable. And now with that, on with the show. It feels so weird not to have like my paper notes. I usually have paper notes, but my printer has bit the dust.
Sorry.
I bought ink for it. I put the ink in. It printed like half a page of my notes like a couple of weeks ago. And then it started giving me this error message like, please replace the ink. And I had literally just put new ink in. I was just like, okay, I'll give you some time. Because sometimes it does that and I'll come back to it and it'll you know, have, I don't know, gotten over its little fit. But it's still doing it. So I think I have to buy a new printer, y'all. So
I wish the Patreon had like a registry, like a gift registry that we could like all chip in and be like, buy Latara a new ink.
Listen,
if we all pull together, look, this is why you have patrons, to keep it going.
That's exactly what I was going to say. The Patreon itself is what's going to buy the new printer. Like, once
but it would still be cool if you could be like, gift Latara a sandwich or what
that would be sweet. I would feel weird about like putting something up there being like, buy
me stuff.
I know. Buy me these things.
Booze to get through the episodes.
Okay. So today we're gonna start in the worst place possible, the most miserable place on earth, Bermuda. We're gonna start with the Sheridan and Luis storyline because Luis, throughout the week, he's the only person who changes location, and he goes to all of our locations. So I figure we should just follow him where he's going. So let's get into the Sheridan and Luis stuff. So you will recall that last week, Luis and Beth left in a hurry, like a ridiculous hurry, to be honest. Left in a hurry because Beth got news of the house fire at Luis's home and that Theresa is now Mrs. Julian Crane, and he's like, I gotta go do something about this, put a stop to this, right? So they have already head out to the airport, but not before they left a note for Antonio under his hotel room door, right? He wrote him a nice little note and slid it under the door. Fair enough. I do still think he should have left a message at the desk. Also, I don't know. You haven't seen your brother in years. He is known to just disappear. Maybe wait around. I don't know. Just like maybe wait to get his
your
phone
mom
number.
and your sister too. Like it's not like I have to go, I have a family emergency.
Right.
It's our mom. Like,
yeah. Which to Luis's credit is what he was saying. He was like, hopefully once he reads what's going on in Harmony, he'll come home. Right? Because he's like, because this is his family too. But I understand Luis's urgency to an extent. I don't think he couldn't have waited an extra 30, 45 minutes. You know
every
what I mean?
communication from this for the next like for the whole week between Luis and Antonio is a communication method that would have been in like 1952. Right? They're calling each other's hotel rooms and like they're like leaving messages with the front desk and sliding notes. Like the way that this stupid show for like Timmy has a cell phone. If Timmy has a cell phone, you guys have cell phones. There's not a world in which if you need to get in touch with your sibling that you would not call their cell phone.
Right. Well, that's why I'm saying it doesn't make sense to me why Luis wouldn't have waited a little while, because it seems that he doesn't have his cell phone number, right? Like it seems that he doesn't have his contact information. And I will say, because I was like, oh, why wouldn't he have just gotten his phone number? But they barely saw each other. Like they kept the whole time there was just always, well, fucking Diana had that little cough, and that apparently was so important for Brian that he couldn't spend time with his brother basically. But
oh my god,
I don't know. It's all very annoying. We've already spent more time on this than I want to, but
correct. I'm so sorry. I said usually my skin is crawling whenever Antonio is on screen, but Sheridan's like post nasal fry is the only thing that makes him like gives him a break from being the most annoying thing in the scene. Hearing her talk like this was worse than whatever. Ma, let's go take care of you in bed. Like it was better.
Maddening. It's maddening what they do with her being sick, because last week she was fine again. Like she's like going in and out of being sick, and I hate it. It drives me crazy. So yes, after the ball, remember they all went to a masquerade ball last weekend, or last night. And Diana danced with Luis. She danced a couple of songs with Luis. They were in masks, so she couldn't recognize him for whatever reason. And she couldn't recognize him because she has amnesia. He couldn't recognize her because he's a fucking idiot. And and he couldn't hear. No, she couldn't hear. He was talking to her like in her ear while they were dancing, but her ears were stopped up because she was, quote, sick. And her voice was different because she was sick. So whatever. It was all stupid. They went to the ball. It's after the ball now. Diana and Brian go to Beth and Luis's room, knock, 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 trying to meet up with them. No one comes to the door because Luis and Beth have gone to the airport. And at that point, they are trying to contact Brian and they call his hotel room. He gets to the room, answers the phone, has missed the call. Also, when they came in the room, they missed the note that Luis had left for them. So
under the door.
Yeah, so he kicked it and it got like kind of wedged. I want to be clear though, where that note was, the placement of that note, I would not have missed it.
Right.
I would have seen it. It's not like it was something that blended into the carpet. It was a bright white, fairly large, regular size envelope. I wouldn't have missed it. It didn't go under anything.
I think what happened was the way they tried to explain it was when they were at the door, getting ready to open it, they heard the phone ringing, and in a hurry, he pushed the door open, I think, which moved the note behind the door. And then the lights were off. So that's another explanation. So like in the dark, they ran to the phone and answered the phone. And then by then the note was behind the door. I mean,
but then when they close the door, it's just like in the corner. You can see it.
You would see it.
Hotel rooms are so clean. There's nothing on the fucking floor. If you see a white envelope on the floor, you're going to pick it up. But that's just me moving on.
100%.
They didn't. They did not. So whatever, Tara, give it up, move on. Then Diana and Brian, they start discussing their love for one another. And talking about like building a future together. And Brian calls down to the front desk and finds out that Luis had checked out and he did not leave any message for him. So this upsets him. Understandably so, honestly. It's like,
sure.
What? I would be, if I was Brian, I would be confused too. He calls Luis a jerk. Diana talks him down. Is like, well, maybe something happened. Maybe something came up. He's like, I guess. Yeah.
He's got some nerve being mad at anyone for disappearing, by the way, but okay. But fine.
Yeah. So then the next morning, we're gonna stick with them for a little bit. The next morning, Brian, well, actually, no, let's not do that. Meanwhile, Beth and Luis are on a plane back to Harmony. That's all y'all really need to know. He can't get in touch with Antonio, but he thinks that Antonio took Diana to the hospital or whatever. He just hasn't seen the note yet. And once he sees the note, he'll come to Harmony. So that's all y'all really need to know about.
They're having the dumbest conversation about how in love Antonio and Sheridan are, or like whatever, Brian, whatever, and Diana. And it's so dumb. It feels like they're really like, in love. It sounds like he'll do anything not to lose her. Like no one says that about anyone. No. Unless it's unhealthy. Which I guess it is. Like, I hate it. Yeah. It's so unearned. It's so dumb.
What drove me crazy was Luis, in his conversation with Beth, talks about how he was dancing with Diana, and he says, quote, "There's something about Diana that reminds me of Sheridan." Oh my God, y'all have to be kidding me with this. You have to be. There's something about Diana that reminds me of Sheridan.
No one has that hair. No one has that hair.
Also, you knew that woman intimately.
Yes. You would have to put like a comforter and a voice distorter on someone for me to not recognize someone I know well.
Somebody that I have been naked with on numerous occasions.
You know their smell, you know the way their hands feel, like you've danced together before, like.
Yeah, but there's something about Diana that reminds me of Sheridan. No shit.
Okay.
So let's talk about Brian and Diana, even though I hate to. So the next morning, Brian is still upset that Luis has just left. He thinks he's just absconded and doesn't forgive him for leaving. And what I mean to say is that Brian believes that Luis has left because he's still upset with Brian for leaving Harmony, because I know that sentence was very confusing.
Yes.
So anyway, Diana says, who is perfectly fine now, by the way. She was so
she's
sick.
Recovered. She's recovered.
She's perfectly fine now. She basically tells him, I'm sure there's more to it than you understand, basically. Then the maid comes in to do housekeeping, and they go out for like a swim or breakfast. I don't really care where they went. Yeah, they went to the beach. That's what it was.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Like that. Kind of. We can talk about that. It's kind of the beach. I thought it was the beach until a third party walked up to them.
I agree.
I thought it was. I thought they had me. As soon as we got a different camera angle and a wide shot, I was like, "Oh, we are not."
Where are they? No, yeah. So the maid comes in. They leave. She, of course, finds that note and throws it away.
Oh my God.
Their personal property. And she's just like, correct. Oh, I'm sure they opened this and already know what happened, what was inside. Bitch, it's not yours to throw away.
Also, it was enclosed in an envelope.
Yeah.
Who reads a letter and then puts it back, folded back into the envelope Like if she's gonna say like I get they read they if it was right next to a garbage and opened and maybe crumbled to be like, okay, I thought she meant to throw it away. But it was crisply sealed in an envelope.
Yeah.
And she just assumed it was red.
Yeah. And she throws it away, puts it on a trash heap. There's also a picture of Sheridan and Louise dancing together that gets brought to them because there was a photographer at the ball last night and he took a picture of the two of them. And if the maid looks at the picture and is like, these two people are clearly very in love.
Well, first she's like, first Sheridan's like, look how in love we are. And then Brian's like, wait, that's not me.
He's like, that's my brother Luis.
Wait, hold on. That's my brother Luis. She's like, oh, I forget how, like, it's easy to see how, how alike you two look.
Yeah, you're so much alike. So let's talk about what's going on with these two idiots at the beach. So they go, or whatever this place is.
Whatever this thing is.
Yeah, they
Sandy
go
Knoll.
to the Sandy Knoll.
Yeah, they're basically like in a sandy.
But then when they turn the camera to show this kind of sketchy guy, he's standing like on concrete, like pillars. And
you know that like area of sand that everyone like takes their sandals off before they go to the beach. You know, it's like basically that's where they are.
Yeah,
in that little area where everyone kicks off their flip flops before walking down the beach.
Exactly.
They're like in the lobby basically. I can't like they're not on
the beach.
They're not on the beach. I'm so mad.
They're not on the beach. Okay, so they are on the Sandy Knoll, and Diana gets like a flash of her past, right? Which, remember, she can't control when it happens. Like, it just happens. It's not like she does it on purpose. Brian gets mad at her about it.
He's like, mad at her. This piece of shit gets mad at her for having a memory of herself.
He tells her, I thought you were trying to move on with me, Diana. I thought you were going to forget your past. I mean, she has forgotten her past. She doesn't remember it at all. Oh, like, I don't know. He gets angry. He does get angry with her. Like, it was annoying.
Sure does.
Because
sure does.
We did kind of zoom past it, but they had a conversation in the hotel room where she basically told him, I'm ready to move on and I'm ready to move on with you. And I don't want to miss out on the love that you and I could have. Right.
Well, the night before, when he's trying to put her to bed in like a full ball gown and makeup and hairspray. And he says, I love you more than I've ever loved anyone, which is just whatever. Okay, fine. It's a little early, but fine. And she says, I have strong feelings for you too. Like, it's clear that she feels something for him that's very strong. But like when someone can't say I love you back, maybe like stop laying it on so thick and just take the win and understand that they're working through something. She's working through it, right? She's trying to mourn the loss of who she was and who she might have been and her lover. But also like is into you. So like take the win and
let it progress at a normal rate. Don't try to push it at too fast, basically.
Right. But now she's saying, I'm ready to like start considering you in like my life and like I see a future that you could be in.
And so they're on the beach talking about their future at first, and then they're on the beach. She has that little flash.
Well, first, there's a montage first that I'm so glad the sound cut. I was like, I'm so happy there's no sound for this bullshit montage.
Listen, y'all, regularly, whenever the sound cuts out, because I usually watch on YouTube because it's a little bit easier for me to do. Whenever the sound cuts out, usually I will go into my own stash of videos and watch check and see if the sound is on my videos. Usually I do have the sound, because the reason there's no sound on the YouTube is because I think her name's Melissa, but she pulls the audio of those songs so she won't get a copyright infringement.
Right.
Which makes sense. So then you don't hear what's going on. This particular time this week, I did not go check. I was like, I'm okay.
I don't
I'm
care.
so okay.
I don't care about you. I'm not shipping you. I'm not listening to your fucking bullshit montage.
I'm so
Song.
okay with there being no sound here. I was very, very okay with there being no sound. So yeah, we get a Brian and Diana montage. Who gives a shit?
No, who gives a fuck?
Yeah. And so
no one.
then she starts to, in her little fantasy montage, she starts to go into the future and think of like what their life could look like. And she envisions them on that beach together with kids running around, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so after the whole situation where he basically chastises her for having a memory that she can't help having.
Well, the memory comes when he says that he's going to go get her tea because she's cold.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the grass, on the sandy knoll, he brings back like a whole tray full of food, which is he just had a tray full of food in the room, which is another thing I had written in their notes. Like when he wakes, as soon as she wakes up, I don't know about you, I am not hungry the second I wake up. And after she wakes up, he walks out in boxers, barf, with like a tray, and he's like, I hope you have an appetite, and like gives her, tries to force feed her this huge tray of food, and then gets her another huge tray of. It's like he's like the witch in Hansel and Gretel trying to fatten her up or something for like domesticity or something. I don't know. It's just so weird that he's just like feeding her. He's shoving so much food at her. And when he puts the tray down in front of her, it strikes a memory in her of Luis walking into the cottage and putting the tray down. So like that's what triggers her. He like brings food and he's like, I hope you're hungry. And then like she like all of a sudden has a memory of Luis walking in. He goes, good morning. And he's like, hope you're hungry. And he puts the tray down. And then so that's her like 3-second memory of Luis walking in and putting down the tray.
Well, and Brian did not like that. He says, I thought you were gonna move on with me, Diana. I thought that you were ready, but maybe I was wrong. She, of course, apologizes and reassures him. She
apologizes for having
his fragile ego. His fragile ego.
My God,
he sucks. That's when this very sketchy character shows up and very cryptically says something about Brian being the guy who's gonna make him a bunch of money. And then he calls somebody and is like, I found the guy you've been looking for, Brian O'Leary. He's on the beach right in front of me. So something's coming down the pipeline with that. I vaguely remember there being something about race car driving.
Yes, something like that. Yes.
Yeah. I'm just betting and gambling. There's like a casino thing, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I don't know.
I might be making.
I don't remember the casino, but the whole thing honestly feels like a hurricane that's on its way. That I'm like dreading, like that whole stupid storyline.
Look, I'm looking forward to it because I honestly do not remember. I just remember he gets in an accident eventually. Yeah.
I mean, it's nice while he's in. Yeah,
it's nice while he's in his coma.
He's in a coma. No, it's great because you don't have to hear him talk. I mean, people talk about him more than they should, but like honestly, it's like a nice reprieve because it's like, oh, this man's still unconscious.
Yeah. So we don't know who that is.
This guy is like found him.
Yeah. And so that's coming down the pipeline, whatever that is. Then Diana wants to know a little bit more about Brian and his past. Is like, I know you have a family in Harmony, but other than that, I don't know anything about you. He completely deflects and is like, people's past don't define their futures. Yeah, but I'd like to know about you. He's like, he says something to the effect of, and y'all, I really took poor notes during this because I don't like this storyline, but basically he deflects saying that, he wants to focus more on the future and not worry about what's in his past. And that he also does say that he used to always be walking around looking over his shoulder, but he doesn't tell her why. And I would have to insist, sir, why? What? Because why are you here on this island? What the fuck happened? Right? Like, I'm not ready to build a life or a future with you if I don't know that you're a safe person to do that with. And right now you seem extremely sketchy. Why can't your entire family know where you are?
It's so weird. I hate what they've done with Sheridan because Sheridan goes from like this she was she was flying airplanes. She knew like jujitsu or whatever it was. She was firing guns.
She speaks multiple languages.
Yeah, she like international woman of mystery, like kicking ass, like no one's going to tell me what to do, like just getting so angry at anyone telling her what to do. Like this
she
is
has
like
escaped multiple kidnappings,
fight off rapists and murderers, like
survived being buried alive.
Like she was so tough and so cool, and it felt like a very like appropriate 90s move for like, you know, the heroine, for the ingenue to also be like this like kind of ass kicker, which I thought was cool. And like I'm just so mad that she can't even be like, you know what, I appreciate it if you didn't make me feel guilty for remembering who I am. She's like,
she's simpering.
I'm sorry.
She's simpering. I can't stand it.
But here's what I can help. And then she kisses him. So like already they're like her like offering him like physical intimacy is a way that she's going to apologize for like being her own person. It makes me so. He doesn't even ask her. Like it even bothered me that he wasn't like, "Are you hungry?" He's like, "I hope you're hungry." Like it's still about him at the end of the day, giving her something. And then I don't know. It's just
I agree with you. I completely that you hit the nail on the proverbial head, right? He makes everything about himself, and the way that the writers have written Sheridan up to this point, up to the point where she loses her memory, she wouldn't have been so simpering when it came to that, the way he was acting. But because I guess amnesia makes you a whole new person, which I mean, maybe, I don't know, but she's very different, and we just got to get used to this one. I don't like her.
You don't like her?
I don't like her. I don't find anything interesting or likable about her.
No.
They charitied her. They turned her into charity. That's basically what they did.
Yes.
They got rid of our regular charity and gave us zombie charity. But then they needed a simpering fool somewhere, and so they chose to give Sheridan Charity's personality. I can't stand it though.
Yeah, he just wants like a helpless baby fuck doll, is what I wrote down in my notes.
I think I talked somewhere about on the podcast at one point about like the sexy baby. Yeah, yeah, that's what they have done to Sheridan. That's exactly what they've done to her. So she wants to know more about his past. He deflects, won't tell her anything about his past. And then they start talking about their past life on the Titanic and how they had kids together. And then Brian is like,
then it gets worse.
When I say I cringed through
it gets worse.
It was so uncomfortable.
Just talking about the past life was bad enough. And then there was like, you know what? I could make it worse. And then they made it worse.
Well, Brian's like, you know what? Maybe the kids we had are still alive. And Sheridan or Diana's like, wow, yeah, I mean, they'd be really old, but maybe. And then Brian says he knows a way to find out how. And of course, they go to an internet cafe and find a site called The Titanic. I guess the Titanic.com, maybe, .net. And Sheridan starts to get little flashbacks of the Titanic as they're kind of looking through this site. Then they look on the passenger list, which this might be a small detail, but to me, why the fuck would you start with the passenger list and not the survivors list? There's a lot less names to look through on the survivors list. Why would you look through the passenger list?
Didn't even occur to me. I was just so angry at the whole notion that she remembered her name.
But not Louise's.
She remembers her name from 100 years ago, but she doesn't
remember Louise from 8 months ago.
Also, like reincarnation and like you're not the same physical DNA composition of yourself.
Well, there's some gray area there. I will let it be, because I do frequently watch a lot of K-dramas and Chinese dramas, and reincarnation is like a running theme in several of them. And a lot of times they do look the same. I'm not saying that's how it works. I'm just saying I don't mind it.
Because you're used to it.
I'm used to it. I don't mind it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm like my understanding of it is like you're a different person, but like the soul carries through. Like
yes,
you
you are correct. I will say, I think
like sometimes you're a man, sometimes you're a woman, like sometimes you're like you're different things.
yeah, you are right, but I think there's more to it than we actually know about because it's not really part of our like culture. I think there's different levels to the shit. I don't know though, because it just seems to me too prevalent. Because one thing that I have also noticed is in like K-drama, sometimes the person who was reincarnated looks the same, and sometimes they don't. Like sometimes they're a different person entirely.
Okay.
So, and then there are like there's certain different types of reincarnation. So like the ones that I see in K dramas, oftentimes the rules are basically like you get like 3 lives at basically as the same person. So there's different versions. I'm not.
I'm glad we had this conversation.
Different versions.
I'm glad we had this conversation.
Yeah.
I didn't know that the Korean. I don't know what religion like reincarnation really belongs to, but I don't think it's a Korean thing. But I'm going to defer to your.
I think what I'm saying is it's not that it's a Korean thing, but I do believe that there's a certain type of spirituality that is Eastern that we don't necessarily practice or know as much about. So I think that they pull from a lot of different places because there's a lot of different religions and like spiritual practices throughout the world that like have different belief systems and have different rules. They all have different rules.
Also, like on a show, they're not going to get
think any of it's particularly real, but
sure.
All
right. She's the same person.
She's the same person. What got me was
it's nice that they keep the same letter, right? Everyone reincarnates with the same name, with the same that starts with the same letter.
I didn't even
how convenient, right?
Wait, no, because Antonio's name was Franklin. His name was Franklin in the past life. But yeah, I didn't even clock that she's Sheridan and she was because she also was Cleopatra. So
okay, just coincidence about Sheridan. Okay, I'll take it. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, no, it's just that it was just a choice that they made.
Okay.
Whatever. They're talking about their kids, and Brian's like, we can find out if our kids are still alive. They go to the internet cafe. They look on the passengers list. She remembers that her name was Susan, which is
they have a list of people of the children of the people who have survived the Titanic. What an invasion of those people's privacy. What the hell?
Why would you have that list? What use is that list?
How?
I know. Why would that be on the Titanic site? But yeah, they look at the passenger list, and then the passenger list also has like children of the survivors, and so they go through and they find that their son, Franklin Jr., is still alive and in Bermuda.
In Bermuda. Oh my God. And also at their lobster shack. What's the coincidence?
What is the coincidence? Like, what are the chances, right? Of course, it's fate.
Bermuda.
It's fate.
I hate the show.
No, it's something. So while they're looking through this site, they also see a picture of Susan, aka Sheridan, right? I do want to talk about all these pictures they see. They see the picture of Sheridan. They see a picture of Antonio, which is as Franklin, right? He wasn't a captain. He was an officer on the ship. She coughs because apparently she's sick again. She coughs. He gets up to go get her some water. And then she sees the picture of Liam, aka Luis. He comes, she's like, oh my God, I found him. It's him. She calls Antonio back. He comes back over. The picture becomes very pixelated because the connection has been broken or lost and it's not working and you can't see the picture anymore. But for some reason they can still do searches. Like, that's not how the internet works at all. If your page is messed up on one page, you're not going to be able to search anything else because if your connection is lost, your connection is lost. He said something about the servers. There must be something wrong with the servers. There must be something wrong with your brain. So he doesn't see the picture of Liam / Luis, of course. So somehow they can still search for the children, and they found the son who lives in Bermuda, whatever,
and his address, right? This like just give them the social security numbers, bank account. Like why would this site have like this? Whatever.
Well, and Sheridan or Diana's like, we have to find him. We have to. Why? How fucking weird would this be?
How weird are you two?
You know what though? After seeing the pictures of them, right, that Susan and Franklin on the boat, I bet that would be interesting for that old ass man to see his young parents again.
I'm probably unfairly harsh on these two assholes because I hate them.
Yeah.
And I hate them more. Like the sum of their parts is greater. Like I hate them more together than I do apart. Like I just hate them.
Yeah.
So no,
they're terrible.
I'm sure that if I saw a picture of myself and like a picture of a picture of like my husband, and we were both on it and we had children, I would be curious. I'm sure. I get it. But like I hate her,
but we hate them, so.
And it's stupid, right? It's just a stupid whatever.
That's all for them. Let's talk about Luis and Beth. Lord Jesus, y'all, Beth has got to be one of God's strongest soldiers, because
let me tell you, Beth, what
bless her heart, she wants this man bad.
He wants this man and is like playing it smart. She might be one of the smartest characters on the whole show, to be honest. She
might be.
She really is calculating and reacts and rearranges her molecules and processes very quickly to figure out what should I say now to get to achieve this goal later.
Again, I took loose notes, but at one point they were like on the plane, they headed back. They have a conversation wherein Luis says, yeah, Sheridan's face was 1 in a million. Poor Beth.
Poor Beth. It's such a weird thing that he's like kissing her and telling her, you're my future. But like they're still actively talking about Sheridan and his love for her. What a strange dynamic for Beth to navigate.
He says to her, he apologizes to her for going on and talking about Sheridan some more. And he tells her, you know, I can honor Sheridan's memory and love you at the same time. And he tells her,
and talks about how hot she is and how much he loves her 2 seconds later.
Yeah, no, he brings up Sheridan a lot. He's not ready to move on, and I wish he knew that. Beth's problem is she wants him a little too bad, because honestly, if she was being honest with herself, she would know that this is not healthy for either of them.
You know who would do that is Gwen. That Gwen would say, you know what? It sounds like you're not ready to move on. Why don't you let me know? I think Gwen
maybe. I don't think so though, because Ethan with Gwen and Ethan and Theresa, Ethan often says things to Gwen like, you're my wife, or I'm ready to be with you, I want to move on with you. His actions show otherwise.
Right.
And she sees that.
She does.
And she leans in. Say,
if you want her, go be with her. Like she says that more than I remember watching it like back then, the like original. Like she does really draw lines in the sand and be like, I'm taking the kids to my sisters. Like, you know, like I'm like yeah. Whatever. Like she does say like, it's that like you need to choose. I can't keep being, and he keeps like trying to like convince her. But like Beth never draws that line ever. She never wants to say anything that could possibly draw a boundary between her and Luis
at all.
She wants it to be boundaryless.
Yeah, she sugarcoats for him a lot, really. Things that are clearly hurtful to her. Right? Like the line about Sheridan's face being 1 in a million, she was hurt. And that's not the only thing he said this week. So let's keep going. So he tells her he's ready to move on with her and love her and pick her, choose her, love her, right? And Luis then they head back to Harmony. Luis and Beth, they get back to Harmony. Oh, but sorry, before they get back to Harmony, they on the plane, another conversation they have is that Luis is very anxious and worried about what awaits him in Harmony, right? Like the whole debacle with the house. And Theresa, what's going on with Theresa? Beth tells him, she says, "You're doing it again. You're taking on all of your family's problems as your own." And she's like, "And I'm not going to let you do it this time. I'm not going to let your family's she basically says, I'm not going to let your family's problems ruin our relationship
again. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, they're not going to break us up again." And she basically says, you know, Theresa's a grown woman, which you know, at a certain point is like, yeah,
I guess in theory,
you can only do so much in that situation, right? Like, there's no reason to beat yourself up about it over and over again, or destroy your own relationship because Theresa's making poor choices. You know? So anyway, she tells him, "You don't have to do this alone. You've got me. I'm sure Antonio's gonna come after he sees the note. Like, you know, she says, yeah, and your siblings, your younger siblings are basically grown." She even says that about Miguel. She's like, they're grown. Like, they don't need you to be like their father anymore, right. Basically. He agrees. He's like, you know, you're right. I'm not gonna let it, I'm not gonna take it all on this time. I'm not. Whatever. They get back to Harmony. Luis immediately takes everything on. So
Luis, I'm gonna pick this back up real quick. Just right. Yeah. Everybody.
He says okay to her, shuts her up, and then goes back to his old bullshit, going to the mansion. So he storms the mansion. It's like, Theresa, where are you?
What happened to all these like security booths and guard dogs? Like, what happened?
Well, here's the thing. Luis is now Mrs. Julian Crane's brother.
She put him on the list?
He's on a list. They all know he can come and go as he pleases. And don't forget that Luis is the law in this town. Don't you?
That's right.
I am the law.
I am the law.
Okay, so he can come and go as he pleases. So he gets to the mansion, and we will talk more about what happens at the mansion when we go to the mansion. So let's very quickly finish up with what happens after the mansion. So he goes back to the book cafe, brings Beth up to speed on all the things that are going on around town, because he goes to the mansion, then he goes to Tabitha's house. And at Tabitha's house, they have a conversation about Sheridan's past lives and the tea leaves that Tabitha had read for her, basically. And Luis says something about, he tells her about this conversation, and he's really excited because he says, basically, he's like, you know, I think he says, well, if we were together in our past lives, maybe we'll be together in our next lives, and next time I won't let her go. It's just like conversation that you don't have with your current girlfriend. You know, you don't tell your current girlfriend, like, man, I hope in my next life I don't have to be with you. I can be with that other woman that actually loved.
I'll settle for you now because maybe in my next lifetime I can have Sheridan back. Like,
yeah. And Beth's feelings are clearly hurt. She's visibly hurt by it. But of course, she plays it off. And then she tells him, you know, there's a way we can find out if the two of you really were on the Titanic. And of course, their answer is also the internet. And they also are on the Titanic.com.net, whatever. And they also see the picture of Luis. And they also see the picture of Sheridan. They do not see the picture of Antonio, of course. So that's that. Moving on to fated couples, or ill-fated couples, I guess. Theresa, Ethan, Gwen. You got anything to add to Sheridan and Luis before we move on? Please, God, say no.
No. I said I've never been so grateful for a Friday to end on a cliffhanger in my life. Let's go find our children. Like done Friday. Thank God I don't have to watch one more moment of this stupid event. I'm so happy. So dumb. It's so dumb. I hate it.
All right, so now we're moving on to Theresa and what's going on with her. She is admitting to Pilar that everything she's doing and everything she has done is to get Ethan back, which we already knew. We already knew that, but she's finally verbalizing it and saying it out loud. Pilar tries to warn Theresa about what Rebecca and Ivy are capable of, and that she doesn't know what she's up against when it comes to them. But Theresa says she's not worried. There's nothing they can do to me now. Girl, you have these two psychopaths living in the mansion with you. They can do there's an awful lot they can do to you. There's a lot. But
why has everyone forgotten about Alistair's existence is my question.
I said this last week or the week before.
Like, he's such an ominous presence, whether he's on screen or not, whether if it's his cuticles, where is he as a reference?
I have never understood how these three women are fighting over a house that is not theirs.
It's not their house.
A house that wasn't Julian's house. A house like Alistair's house
would have stepped in by now. It's like they're not even lazily explaining.
Well, he has stepped in now. He did. He came in last week. Yeah, that's how Theresa became Mrs.
I did not watch those episodes.
It's okay, because let me give you a reminder.
That wasn't in the extraditional dialogue. So
they went to court last week. I think it was last week. They went to court, and Theresa was named Mrs. Julian Crane because Alistair told the judge to rule in her favor.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And we don't know exactly why. I think it's because he would rather have Theresa in the house than deal with Ivy and Rebecca. I also feel like optically, he just likes being able to look at Theresa on all his cameras. And I also believe it's kind of revenge against Ivy for the whole Ethan debacle, right? So he wants her out. I think ultimately that's his largest motivation, is that he wants Ivy out and gone for what she did with the paternity and pretending that Ethan was a Crane, even though he fucking knew the whole time that Ethan wasn't a Crane too. So that I feel like that's confirmed for me, because we saw him literally watching everybody on the screens.
Yeah.
So yeah. So Alistair is a key reason why Theresa is in the house. Yeah. And
it's still weird that no one's talking about. It's still, for me, it's still weird that no one is mentioning him, because people talked about him a lot, and now they're as viewers, we know he's still pulling the strings, but it's still weird that Pilar and Theresa have not said his name once.
No, I agree, because when he finally showed up, I said, well, it's about goddamn time. Where have you been?
Where have you been?
And with Pilar, I agree. It doesn't make sense that she hasn't invoked his name a little bit more. Theresa, it makes a little more sense that she's never had any real dealings with Alistair.
Right.
She's only actually met him once, and she didn't realize that she had met him.
Right.
At the airport. She didn't even know who he was. So he's not as much of an impending or imposing. I think in her mind, he's just some nice old grandpa. You know? She doesn't know any better. She doesn't know Alistair. And early on in this whole situation, Ivy had made it clear to Rebecca that they want to try and keep Alistair out of the situation altogether. So not to clue him in or call him or anything for any kind of help.
Ivy should know better.
Well,
and I think Rebecca fucked him once.
Well,
I think that's implied at some point that she.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We literally see their sex scene.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just feel like, okay, whatever. All right. Well,
I mean, Ivy was right though. You do want to keep Alistair out of it. We do want to keep Alistair out of it. He's the big bad for real. So anyway, yes, Theresa's not worried. She says that these ladies cannot do anything to him. Gwen takes some time to reaffirm to her mother and Ivy that if anything happens to Theresa, that they will go down for it, because she will expose them basically for anything bad happening to her in the house. Rebecca then tells Ivy, don't worry about her. She's just on her goody two-shoes shit right now. She's like, so we're going to ignore her entirely. And we are going to come up with a plan I have come up with a plan basically to have the state pull the plug on Theresa. So then Theresa talks to the ladies. Like, there's a lot of coming in and out of conversations that are all happening in the exact same room.
Yes.
Which irritates me sometimes because I tend to get a little bit confused about who's hearing what and who's seeing what. Because it doesn't make sense to me that y'all are all in, a room that's 150 square feet and you don't see or hear what's going on. I don't know. So, Theresa tells the ladies that she's not going to move them out of their rooms and that she just wants to do what's right by everybody. Of course, the reason she's not moving them out of their rooms is because she wants to stay in the room that's adjacent to Ethan and not into either of their rooms. So she goes up to her room, which is the room next to Ethan's. Meanwhile, Rebecca puts into motion what she calls Operation Adios, Theresa. And she calls Charles, one of the Crane security, I guess. Who is this man? Is he one of the Crane security?
Yes.
Okay.
He's Crane security. He's like
Charles
fresh out of high school Crane security or whatever. He's
fresh out of the academy, out of the Crane Academy for Security. So she calls Charles in. She starts like coming on to him and
in like the most PG way though. She's like stroking his arms and like fingering his lapel on his collar.
Yeah, like she's doing like, her sexy that whole thing, her sexy thing. She tells him that she'll make sure he gets a promotion once she gets all the Theresa stuff figured out if he does her a favor. And she asks him, she's like, aren't there secret cameras all over the property? And he says, oh, yep. So not so secret, I guess.
Not secret. Okay.
Not so secret. So she starts talking about these cameras and he thinks that she wants to make a porno with him.
So funny. It's his first, he goes from like bright-eyed squirrel to be like, yes, how can I help you? To being like, you want to make a movie with me? Like, oh yeah.
You want to make a movie? Yeah.
And she's like, yeah. I mean, later.
Yes. So she tells him that she wants him to get her the footage from around the Crane property and around the Crane cannery from New Year's Eve, the night that Julian was shot, right? And he's like, oh, I don't know if I can do that. And then, of course, she propositions him some more, gives him the old whisper in the ear, and he's like, okay, I guess I can. And so he heads off. Ivy doesn't understand what is going on. She doesn't understand the plan because Rebecca hasn't explained anything to her. So Ivy the entire time, all week, is just like, I don't get it, Rebecca. What is it that we're going to do? What is this? Rebecca tells Ivy, we're going to get Theresa to confess to Julian's murder. That's what the plan is. So,
because now their goal is to kill Theresa. That's their goal.
Yeah, the goal is to kill Theresa.
I cannot believe that they can't just find a way to kill her. Like, if their goal is to kill her, there's so many ways they can do it that are cleaner. Like, if she has the power to do all that she's about to be doing, you can't find someone to just like slip poison in her oatmeal.
Yeah, actually,
like,
you make an excellent point. Actually, now that I think about it,
so convoluted. Like, the plan is good and diabolical. I kind of like, once I remembered the plan, I was like, oh, okay. Like it showed like an intelligence about how Theresa would act. We'll get to the plan, and I was like, this is actually pretty smart. It shows that she knows who she's dealing with. But if she has the resources to do what she's about to do, she has the resources to like inject something in her neck while she's sleeping.
Listen, we saw what Ivy has the resources to do. She drugged Whitney. She had Whitney drugged. You're telling me you can't have Theresa poisoned?
It really would not be that hard, right? Like in the shower, like fucking throw a toaster in
Now,
there, cartoon style. Like,
now, I think the reason why we're not going down the more simpler path is because Gwen has made that threat to both of them that if anything happens to Theresa, I'm going to tell the police that it was you. And
well,
so
but it will
suspension.
happen.
Yeah, yeah, but if it happens like this, right, where
Oh,
she goes to jail, because she confessed to a murder and she gets sentenced to
okay. So
death,
then she has a coven.
then their hands are clean, right? It's
I
like
got you.
Theresa
Okay.
killed Julian,
All
you
right.
know? So I think that's why they threw that little Gwen thing in there with her saying, if anything happens to Theresa, then I'm going to cast suspicion on the two of you.
Yeah.
I think that's why it was so that they could do this convoluted plan, and it's a great plan for soaps, right? Like it's a great
Right.
plan
No, correct.
for
It's a good,
daytime.
right.
It's a
Correct.
great plan for daytime. So
Okay. Okay.
let's talk about what's going on with Theresa really quickly. Teresa's going upstairs and she is getting ready for bed, and she realizes, she's like, okay, now's my chance to make my move. I'm gonna make my
Oh my
move.
God.
I thought this was real. I'm gonna go ahead and tell y'all this was a fantasy of hers.
They never get me, and they got me with this one.
They got me with this one.
I always know when it's fake, but I really did think this one had happened. I'm so mad when it was. I was like, oh, shakes fist.
When I knew, it took me a minute to know it was a fantasy, but I knew it was a fantasy once he said, "I'll never leave you again," and
Yep.
kiss her some more. I was like, oh no, that's not
At the end.
Ethan.
Yeah, at the end.
At the end of the fantasy, I was like, okay, now y'all got me. Good one, Passion.
Yes.
So yeah, she has this fantasy where she fakes a fall. She trips.
Yeah, she drags like a little tablecloth off and like makes a big clatter for when she hits the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And
So she fakes the fall. She falls down. She starts to call out to Ethan, "Help, Ethan, help. I'm falling and I can't get up."
Right.
He comes in, he scoops her up, puts her in the bed. She starts crying, saying, I'm scared of having this baby, and I'm scared of being alone without you, and I'm just so alone. And then he says, you aren't alone. I'm right here. You are not alone. I am here with you. You're not alone. I'm here. And then he kisses her. He leans in and kisses her.
Well, first he starts to walk away, and she's like, "No, please, 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 please! I feel like if you leave, I might faint again." At which point I'm like, "Girl,
You're
you're
in
on
the
a bed.
bed."
Like, this is the safest. This is the safest place."
Yeah.
And so I started furiously writing down how stupid Ethan was for not like going to get her help after fainting and being pregnant. This girl is pregnant. She just fainted. Maybe she fell on her stomach. You don't know. And you're not leaving her because she's worried she might faint while lying down. And then by the time I wrote all that,
the fact that you bring all of that up is actually makes it so much funnier that it is a Theresa fantasy, because in her fantasy, because I agree with you. The smart thing for Ethan, and what I would want from my significant other, would be absolute concern for my health and the health of my baby, and for them to be like,
her first pregnancy and she's so young.
Yeah, and so I feel like that if she was thinking, her fantasy would actually be that Ethan comes and scoops her up and takes her to the hospital and make sure she's okay. But no, her fantasy is that he scoops her up and holds her till she falls asleep.
Right.
Kisses her, and then whatever. He kisses her, they kiss some more. It's a fantasy. Theresa wakes up, she's still sitting at the vanity, and she decides to do this thing, right? And so she fakes that little fall. She does the whole thing. She starts yelling for help from
I love this bit so much. I love this bit so much. Because when the first time she falls, in my head, I'm thinking, this would be really funny if it doesn't work. Yeah. And then it works, but it turns out it's a fantasy. So what follows is a delight.
It was hilarious, actually. It was actually so funny. She falls, or fakes her little fall, and she starts screaming for help for Ethan. Ethan, help, I've fallen. Ethan, help, I've fallen. She's like, he must not be able to hear me. She gets up, goes to the door, knocks on
it. And it's like, oh, Ethan. And then like listens like, oh boy. Like, it's not working.
And so Ethan doesn't hear her pleas. He doesn't hear her calls for help. But Gwen does.
Because Ethan's downstairs.
Yeah, Gwen comes in and is in a night like her negligee nightgown kind of situation. And
I called her Jiho in my notes because her dress, her negligee was cut down like basically as low as J-Lo's green dress. Remember that?
It was a deep V.
It was such a deep V. I just called her Jiho in my notes because it was like J-Lo's notes.
That's so funny. It was a deep V. And
it was
I noticed that too.
It was so like it was plunging if you will.
And whose is it? Do you just have clothes here? What?
No one sleeps in like big t-shirts the way I've been doing since I was like 10. Like no one sleeps in t-shirts anywhere in Harmony.
Listen.
Silk and satin negligees all the time.
I sleep in nothing. I can't sleep with anything on my body, to be honest. But I guess I'm Jiho, but
No. I know. Jiho not because she was a whore, just for Jiho for Hotchkiss. It was not, just to be very clear. This was not a judgment.
No, I got it. A
judgment for what she was wearing.
No, she comes in her negligee, and yeah, nobody sleeps in sweatpants around here.
Right, no fuzzy socks.
So she comes in, she's like, Theresa, are you okay? Is everything fine?
and she keeps it going for a while. She's like, ooh, I'm not feeling so well, which might have worked because we know that girl's a hell of an actress if she'd kept it up. But then she was like, is Ethan there?
Yeah, I wish she had just been like, I don't feel so good. Right?
Just keep going. Just keep at this point. She's been caught. She's suspicious.
I fell. I was dizzy. I fell. Like, can you help me? Like, what do you think? Should I go to the hospital? Should I just lay down? What do you think?
Right. Sell it. Make her feel guilty for suspecting that you were trying to get Ethan.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, no, she asks for Ethan immediately.
Baby girl's not a thinker. Her mind is, she has a truly one-track mind. And that track only goes towards Ethan. That is it. That's it. So yeah, she asked for Ethan, and of course that kind of tips Gwen off. Gwen was already suspicious of Theresa,
correct?
Right? But that specifically is like when Gwen basically drops her own act, and Theresa drops her act too. And they do their little. We get the beginnings of what's about to happen for the next, I don't know, 6 more years,
right,
between these women. So once they kind of drop the act, Theresa says, let me see. Gwen tells Theresa that Ethan is working on the appeal and he's not in his bedroom. He's downstairs. He's going to work all night. That's why he let her sleep in his bedroom. But why is she there? Where's your home?
Why are you there?
Where is your home? Why are you there? And why do you have to sleep in Ethan's room?
Everyone is sleeping at the Crane Mansion. It's so weird. Well, they've wasted all these sets for like the internet cafe and the sandy knoll, and the lobby and the airport. So like they're really out of locations. So I guess everyone has to be at the.
Everybody has to sleep at the
and
mansion.
Tabitha, right? They're just running out of sets, so everyone has to be at the Crane Mansion, I guess.
Yeah. So she tells Theresa Ethan let her take his room, and she says, once Ethan wins his appeal, you're going to be out of this house and out of Ethan's life for good. Theresa says, you would do anything to keep me and Ethan from being together, wouldn't you, Gwen? And Gwen says, you know what? I'm not out to manipulate Ethan, unlike some people I know. I respect Ethan and his skills as a lawyer. What a fool. What a damn fool this girl is.
Okay.
I respect Ethan and his skills as a lawyer. Let's break that down. You respect Ethan. He certainly does not respect you. Has not respected you. Has disrespected you so deeply.
So many times.
On so many fucking occasions. And we haven't even gotten to the point where they're married yet. Right? But you
privately and publicly disrespect. Right.
You respect this man who has no respect for you, broke up with you on your wedding night, or well, not your wedding night, the night before your wedding.
She should just say, I feel
maid of honor.
Bad for him.
He
Correct.
broke up with you for your maid of honor, which that's
who should not have been your maid of honor.
I still don't know why Theresa was the maid of honor. I don't.
Should not have this child that I met 7 seconds ago.
Well, and it's crazy because actually, okay, we're gonna go back to that real quick, just real quick. It's crazy because she had like 8 bridesmaids. If your maid of honor is sick, wouldn't you just bump up one of the fucking bridesmaids to maid of honor? Why would you bring in Theresa?
Buffy. I remember Buffy.
Yeah, it's Buffy and Muffy and
right.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, one of them could have done it. So
oh my god, it was.
Anyway, we're gonna back to the future.
Yeah.
So she says, "I respect Ethan and his skills as a lawyer." Well, his skills as a lawyer got Ivy's case thrown out. No, he had done things correctly, but the judge obviously was compromised by Alistair. But still, they don't know that, right? From our perspective, his skills just weren't up to par, right? So anyway, she tells her that, so Gwen says, that's where you went wrong, Theresa. You didn't trust him, and that's why you lost him and will never get him back. And then, which is,
it's fair.
I mean, never get him back. That's not true, because truly, Ethan is struggling. Honestly, if Theresa was not doing this shit with the house, they would be back together. I believe that.
You really do?
I do. I think, maybe not at this exact moment, but they will be on track to be getting back together. Why? Because at this point, Theresa's pregnant, left alone. The man who got her pregnant is dead. So she truly is just like alone. She's been taken advantage of. She's been victimized. And you could say the only reason Theresa's been so deeply victimized is because she met Ethan, right? Because she was with Ethan. He could definitely see it and feel a certain level of guilt around Theresa.
But he's been, I mean, if we had a grand list of lies that Theresa, like the list of lies, really starting from like when she pretended to be someone else. Like from the beginning, she has not been honest with him. Like the way that she, even like one of my favorite moments is when they're in the cabin, right? In that cabin, like she manipulated that. Like she manipulated everything. And I think he just can't take being lied to.
But he can take being lied to. He has taken being lied to. Every time the lies come out, he has been like, "Oh, Theresa, promise me you won't lie to me again. Promise me you won't lie to me again." Some time passes and they're back together again.
It feels like he's drawing a line in the sand.
He's drawing the line now because she's doing all this shit with the house, and it's like it's much easier for him to take his mom's side, right? But I think if she wasn't doing all of this with the house, they might not be getting together at this exact moment. But I do believe that they would absolutely, based on who Ethan is, be on track to getting back together. This is a huge barrier between the two of them. But
because it's mother against his mother versus
you pulled that out of it. And also he's kind of getting a glimpse of Theresa's more I don't want to say evil, but her more assertive, angrier side, right?
Yes.
He hadn't seen any of that. So, I do. Yes, I do. Even this week, he's looking at pictures of her and pining for her.
No, it's true. It's true.
Yeah, he would be
telling her. He's telling Pilar, he's like, I just can't. But at some point, Pilar, we can get to later. She's like, he's like, I just can't trust her anymore. And Pilar says, Ethan, sometimes love just isn't enough.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, this is one of those times. And I really wanted Pilar to be like, I know, that's why I said it. I know. I know that's why I said it to you just now. Like, because he's so dumb.
He is so dumb. Dumb. That's why he would be back with Theresa. He's an idiot.
That's why he would be back with Theresa, yes, right? She would manipulate him in some other way to make him feel.
He's dumb, and he does love Theresa. He's Theresa and Ethan. Theresa is obsessed with Ethan, but Ethan's like weirdly obsessed with her too.
Yep.
He is. Yeah. He's weirdly obsessed with her. Their relationship is weird.
Okay.
It is.
Okay. All right.
It's unhealthy. We were talking about this before we started recording about how toxic all the relationships on this show
I'm now struggling to find one healthy relationship.
Yeah, even the ones that are deemed somewhat healthy are not anything I would want for myself, right? Correct. Like the closest thing to a healthy relationship is Tabitha and Timmy.
Right now.
And exactly, I was about to say, and she was stuffing him in the washing machine and the dryer and the blender 500 episodes ago.
It has grown. Right. Yeah. It was really unhealthy. Yeah. I think I have a note about Gwen where I said, like, in the beginning, the opening scene, she basically says, I didn't hear her say if anything happens to Theresa. I heard her say if anything happens to her baby, I will throw you both out of the bus. That's what I heard.
The last week and the week before, because Gwen's been saying this for a few weeks, she overheard them talking about pushing her down the stairs, basically.
Right.
So
that's why she's like, now she's worried.
Yeah.
And I felt like, okay.
I do think I do believe that Gwen's concern is more so for the baby than it is for Theresa, for obvious reasons. But and maybe I'm just hearing it wrong, or maybe I'm giving Gwen too much benefit on this. But I thought I had heard that she was saying if anything happens to Theresa, but maybe it was if anything happens to Theresa's baby, which would make sense.
Yeah,
I'm gonna give Gwen that she is not necessarily worried about Theresa, but she doesn't want Theresa to die.
She's concerned and about the baby. I said, wow, Gwen. Gwen's a good person, and I do have moments where I'm kind of more on Gwen's side than Theresa's. But then I thought about it, and I like added a question mark because after Gwen is a good person, because it feels like if she were a good person, wouldn't she just like immediately raise suspicions about the mother's plotting now?
Yeah.
Like if she like, why would she wait for something bad? She'd wait for the baby to be dead before she revealed, oh yeah, I knew those guys were plotting something.
Yeah.
And now, why didn't you say something? I don't know. It just feels like I was like, oh, good for her. And like, oh, ooh.
I feel like
the right thing to do would just be to like stop it before it happens.
I feel like the more we watch this show, the more you realize that pretty much no one's a good person with the exception of like Timmy, right? No, there's no one is without like fairly deep flaws, and even the ones who are meant to be like the good guys, like Sam, like Grace, you can find so many horrible things about them.
Right.
Right? So yeah.
All right. Gwen and Ethan. Right.
I think as far as Gwen, I'm gonna give her credit.
We'll give her the credit
is due. We'll give her credit for not wanting to murder Theresa and her baby.
Good job.
At this point. So where are we? So we're still in the room with these two women.
We're still in the room. So, yep.
I'm sorry. Gwen tells Theresa, I'm not gonna let you manipulate. and scheme to get Ethan. And Theresa tells her, go to bed, Gwen. And P.S. get used to sleeping alone. I was like, okay, good one. Oh, burn, Theresa. Girl, you sleeping alone. What? Y'all are in the same proverbial bed, sleeping by yourselves. Actually, how interesting would it be if Gwen and Theresa like got together?
Oh my God, like in like the heat of like a huge fight, they just like grab each other and like
like how interesting would it be?
I would love it.
Ended up kind of like
love it so much.
Having like a enemies to lovers kind of thing.
I would love it.
And they're both cheating on Ethan. Like I would love that.
I would have loved that so much more.
That would have been so good. Whoever's writing the reboot, put that in there. Yes. Theresa and Gwen weird love story together.
It would have been so good.
Yeah. So then Gwen says to Theresa, you know, you don't get it. Ethan is an honorable man and he doesn't want to see the worst in anyone, not even you. And then she says, I won't let you manipulate Ethan. And then Theresa, in an aside to herself, says, Ethan will be mine again or I'll die trying. Gwen goes to her room. Theresa goes to bed. Meanwhile, Ivy and Rebecca are plotting to kill Theresa. She says she'll
plotting her death.
Yeah, she says Ethan will be mine again, or I'll die trying. And Rebecca and Ivy are more than happy to oblige her in that. So the next morning, Theresa wakes up in the mansion. She's so happy. Oh, things are so beautiful here. It's such a wonderful place. Who wouldn't want to live here? She rings for a servant to bring her breakfast, and she's just like ringing the bell. She's just like, when I ring for a servant, I didn't like this at all. When I ring for a servant should come. And so she's trying to get up. Yeah. She gets up out of the bed, and as she's going to the door, Pilar walks through the door in her Molly the Maid uniform.
I said she's wearing her uniform and hypocrisy.
Let's get into it. She's in her maid outfit. Teresa's like, Mama, what are you doing wearing that? You're not working. And she's like, yes, I am. I am working, Theresa. I am the housekeeper here. And I take pride in my work. What? What?
Okay.
I've been saying, what are we? This is like episodes 720 or something like that, right? I've been saying for at least 600 episodes, I do not understand why Pilar still works at this house.
The evil house.
I haven't understood it at all for years. I don't get why she still works there. Like
the number of times she said evil house and blood money. Evil house, blood money.
The house she has spent the last like 30 years working in, and and using the money that these evil people give her for her salary, pay her for her salary. It is blood money. For some reason, she thinks it's clean because she worked for it. It doesn't make any fucking sense.
Doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make. She's so. Oh, sorry, Eric. I know you love Pilar. She works my nerves. She works my nerves because this doesn't make any sense. And any person who, you know why this also irritates me, and I want to also make sure I talk about this with Eric the next time he's on. The other thing that bothers me about the way Pilar is written is that this false narrative of like, she's such a hardworking person, she's such a hardworking woman, and that's what makes her like honorable and truthful and like she's this salt of the earth woman. But the writers are not writing a woman who is real, because anybody who does that kind of work will tell you they would quit it in a fucking second.
And wait, call him. Can you call him and put him on speaker? So he's like a guest caller?
He might be busy. Let me see.
Let's see what happens. Let's do it.
Let me see.
You're like a guest. Oh, you're basically Frasier right now, by the way.
Oh. I'm listening. Hey, Eric.
Hey, what's up?
I'm recording the podcast with Lisa, which you're not going to be able to hear her because I got my earbuds in.
Oh, okay.
But we have something to say. So actually, let me unplug my headphones so you can hear her.
Oh my God, I love this. This is the best thing that's ever happened.
Can you hear it? Can you hear it now, Lisa?
I can hear everything. Okay, good. Okay.
All right. So
it's like you're holding a little friend.
So, Eric, we're talking about Pilar and how the writers have written her in such a way that it's like she's not to me a real person who, like, the whole situation with her working in this house, and they've made it seem like she feels like it's so moral of her to stay working in this house, and that the money that she makes from the cranes is not blood money because she earned it somehow. She earned it, and so somehow it's clean. And the fact that they don't know, like, the writers clearly don't know anybody who does that kind of work, because anybody who does that kind of work will tell you that if they had the opportunity to quit that work, they fucking would.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it is very clear that they have made Pilar, like, they're like, let's go based off of stereotype, the hardworking Mexican, the hardworking Latino. That is what they're going off of. And so they've given her that personality trait of, like, of course Pilar's okay doing this because she has that, like you said, they made it, they connected it to morality, to morals.
Yeah, exactly.
But she says the words, I refuse to profit from their blood money, when basically it feels like everything in her life is funded by the blood money.
It's a stupid talking point, exactly.
Okay, so you can't think of a reason why in her head, like in Pilar's head, how is she justifying this? Like, she like made it clean by working for it? Hard work makes it clean.
The hard work makes it clean for her. Doesn't mean that it's true.
Is she a hypocrite for you? Do you feel like she's a hypocrite in this moment, or no?
Yeah. I mean, the money still, it's like, you either believe in something or you don't believe in something. I think she thinks it's okay. She definitely knows where that money comes from, if it comes from Alistair.
Yeah.
With that said, if you're going to come for her for that, go for it. But I still defend she's probably a better mother than a lot of the other ones.
She's definitely a better mother than the other ones. But I really wanted to call you so that you could also corroborate the thing about the hardworking Mexican. Yes, I agree.
Yes.
It's a trope. It's a stereotype, and
that's what they're going for.
Yeah. So thank you, Eric.
Thank you, Eric.
Kind of immigrant.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah. Not the kind that eats dogs and cats.
No, of course not.
Exactly. That's absolutely true.
All right. Thank you for your cameo, Eric.
This is a first. I liked it.
I liked it too.
She was, because she was like, I'm gonna have to remember to talk to Eric about this the next time we talk to him. I was like, girl, call him now. This is like, I love this.
Well, I'm happy you did. That's great.
Yeah, so we'll see you soon.
All right, sounds good.
Bye.
Bye. That was amazing.
Yeah. All right, let me plug my headphones back in.
Okay. While you're doing that,
all right,
I just want to also point out that at some point I had to rewind, and I understand that the filming schedule is like, you film one day and then you come in another day and you get your hair and makeup done and you're out in your wardrobe for like a different day. But like, they went from like Pilar saying, I value hard work, and Theresa's like in shock. And then the next scene, Theresa's in her closet all dressed. Mm-hmm. And she's like, I told you I don't want you to work, mama, as if the conversation is continuing. But that bitch like French braided her hair all the way through. So it's just, so I didn't notice it until like, wait a minute. I was like, this is a nice braid. Wait a minute, who braided that hair? Did that girl French braid her hair in the middle of a serious conversation with her mother?
Maybe her mom did it.
Like, while discussing then I pictured Pilar doing her hair for her while discussing whether or not to take the blood money from the evil house.
Maybe this braid will knock some sense into you. Tighten it as tight as possible. Yes. So Pilar is being irritating, but also making some good points. Like, Pilar,
get out.
The thing about Pilar is that she's not wrong.
Right, get out. This is a bad place for you to be.
Exactly. It comes to her being at the mansion. She does make the point of like, because Theresa at one point is like, Mama, there's so much space here. You can just move in here. You don't have to stay at the B&B. Like, it doesn't make sense for everybody to be scattered. You can just move in. And Pilar says, I work here. I don't want to sleep here. And I was like, yes. Who wants to sleep at their job? No.
But didn't they all live in the cottage?
They did, but like,
it's on the property.
You know what? Luis shows up and he makes an excellent point. So let's skip to Luis coming in, because Pilar and Theresa are having the same old kind of conversation they're always having. Teresa's, of course, in La La Land. This is when Luis storms up the stairs and he encounters Ivy and Rebecca first, who are like standing outside of Teresa's door, just like listening in on what's going on. And he sides with the two of them and is like, yeah, I want Theresa out of this house too. And he barges into Teresa's room.
Well, first he goes, what room is she in? Actually, it was a really funny sight gag. He was like, what room are they in? And then the camera like shoes like Rebecca and Ivy, like, and then both silently and on cue both point to the same door.
Yeah, they did.
It was really like, what room is she in?
Like, it was also funny when they kind of backed out of his way at the same time. Like, Ivy's in her wheelchair, Rebecca's behind her, and they're moving at the same pace back to let him get through and do what he needs to do.
There's some funny like sight gags that this wheelchair and like those two are capable of, because they're
great together. They're great together. So he barges into the room. Yeah, he barges into the room. He immediately grabs Teresa's carpet bag. She has a carpet bag. I don't know why she has a carpet bag suitcase, but he grabs it and he starts packing it for her. He's like, you're not staying here. I'm gonna pack your
throwing dresses in there.
Yeah, who's to say what stuff is hers and what stuff isn't? But he just starts throwing stuff into that bag and tells her she's leaving. And then he's like, because he doesn't know that Pilar has let the homeowner's insurance lapse. So he is a little bit more optimistic about what they can do with, as it pertains to Theresa and the baby, right? He's like, the insurance money is going to have the house rebuilt before we know it. Everything's going to be back to normal. Like, you're not staying here. Even in the meantime, like, we can all stay at the B&B. They have to break the news to him that there's no homeowners insurance. They don't have homeowners insurance. This actually, I don't know if you noticed it, but it was such a clear moment of like growth for Luis. And I've been saying for a few weeks how different Luis is now versus how he was at the beginning of the show. Because if they had given him that news in episodes 150, 155, he would have blown up.
He would have freaked out.
Completely off the handle. This,
how could you do this? How could you let this happen? Like, and then he would have beat it, and then he would have like gone to the gym and like punching bagged his feelings out about, I should have been there for her. I should have known. Like, this was he really has grown.
It was such a tempered response. Him being upset, right? Understandably so.
Sure.
But like, he is honest with what his feeling is, and the feeling is hurt. He tells him, he tells Pilar, because it's Pilar who's been keeping it from him, right?
Yes.
Because she explains, well, I fell behind and I didn't want to tell you. I thought that I would be able to catch up before you would ever find out or before anything happened. And he says to her, you know, I'm just hurt that you didn't feel like you could come to me with this. And it looked like he was about to cry. Like, it sounded like he was about to cry. Right. It was, I was touched, to be honest. And I was like, yeah, man, I would be hurt too. Luis and Pilar are kind of supposed to be a team, right?
Yep.
Like, she's parentified him to a certain point, and I understand why he feels, you know, a little betrayed by the fact that you let the homeowner's insurance lapse and didn't come to me with it. I could have helped. Right. I could have worked some overtime, which is exactly what I said a couple of weeks ago. He said it this week. I was like, yo, that's not a big deal. That's just some overtime for Luis. Like, that's what it is. He would have worked some extra hours. But anyway, he's hurt, but he's still adamant about Theresa moving out. He's like, it doesn't matter. We'll figure it out, but you can't stay here. You can't stay here. And then Theresa tells him, you know, we can all live here. You know, there's plenty of space. Everybody, we can all live at the mansion. Luis says, I'd rather spend the night in jail than sleep here. Theresa then says, oh, Luis, don't let your macho pride get in the way. And he very passionately says, this has nothing to do with macho pride. This place holds terrible memories for me.
Really vulnerable. Yeah.
It was amazing. It was amazing. It was the exact correct response. And it was the perfect like retort to Theresa's whole, we can all stay here and it's going to be perfect. It's going to be great. It's going to be fine. No, it's not going to be fine.
Right.
Because Theresa, you're truly only thinking of yourself in this.
Correct.
You're not thinking about how Pilar would feel to have to live in this house where she works and hates. Right. You're not thinking about what Luis says, which is this place holds horrible memories for me. He cites Martin's disappearance. He's like, I'm pretty sure these people had something to do with Papa's disappearance. And, you know, having to walk past the gazebo that he built, the cottage that me and Sheridan spent so much time together in, and having to be here all the time. I can't do that. Yeah. And Theresa kind of apologizes. Like, she gets what he's saying. She's like, oh, I didn't think of that. No, of course you didn't, because you're only thinking about Ethan. Right. You're only thinking about you getting Ethan back. And to you, it's like, yeah, this is a positive for all of us. It's a net positive for all of us. But it's not. It's not. Now, it's not. Theresa does offer to Pilar to have the house rebuilt with the crane money, since she's not going to have insurance money. That's the part with Pilar that pissed me off, when Pilar was like, this is it. I want to build the house with my own money, not crane blood money. The money you earn from the job that you work for the cranes?
I didn't clean it yet.
That they pay you in blood money?
No,
is it somehow clean?
Yeah.
Because you scrubbed the floor for it?
It's so stupid. It's so dumb.
I don't know. So she refuses that. So that's off the table. I honestly, yeah. So anyway,
it's also dumb because she's, even if she wants to, like, even if she is principled, let's just buy into, okay, you refuse to let blood money pay for your house. Okay, fine. But like, the alternative is that your daughter is going to continue to live here and like draw your family members into this evil house. Mm-hmm. So given the two options, she is now saying, fine, let's build a new house that you guys can live in. Like, that's the better option. Like, that's what then you say yes. You know what?
You don't have much of a choice.
Right. I don't want to do this.
You let your homeowner's insurance lapse.
Right.
You don't have many options, Pilar. And to me, get it while the getting is good, right? Get your house rebuilt and be done and wipe your hands of it. Whatever. But she wants to work this job for whatever reason. I don't get it. I will never get it. Anyway, moving on, Ethan interrupts. He comes in, says he needs to talk to Theresa, and he takes her down to the library. And Luis then has the opportunity to tell Pilar about everything that was going on with Antonio. So he brings her up to speed about how he interacted and encountered Antonio in Bermuda, and that he should be coming home. Pilar is under the impression that he will be coming home because Luis believes that Antonio got his note. Whatever. So in the library, Theresa, oh my God, Ethan is like, this is so stupid. I'm sorry, I'm laughing already. Ethan says, Theresa, I need you to sign this paper. She says, oh, what is it? He's like, oh, it's just something that says that, you know, that I'm appealing the ruling. And she's like, okay, sure. Signs the paper without reading it, without looking at it, without having a lawyer look over. You have a lawyer. This man is trying to have you out of this house. And I know you trust him and don't. And we know that Ethan wouldn't trick her like that. But
no. I need my lawyer to look at this. Thank you. Like also, it would never happen that like your adversary is presenting your client with paperwork. Like
that alone would have it kicked out.
You do not talk to, let alone that he probably should not be involved, that he shouldn't be litigating this case at all because of the relationship. But like how, like the fact that she wouldn't be like, send it to my lawyer, or like that's because they're trying to present her as like this like business mind now that's going to like go make Crane better. Like eventually she's like taking ownership. She's like, okay,
My issue with Theresa is that she folds when it comes to Ethan so easily. Because Teresa's not a dumb girl. She's dumb when it comes to Ethan, I feel like. Like these plots and schemes that she comes up with and these ideas that she has of him. Oh God, she's basically a child. She's basically a child. She doesn't know any better. So anyway, she signs the paperwork.
Yeah.
And then she tells him, she basically appeals to him that she would like to get back together with him. He says, I don't know what's going through your head.
Girl, stop showing your cards all the time.
He really tries to drive home the fact to her that he is working against her. I don't know why she won't hear that. She's just like, yeah, I know, it's just business though,
but we can still be friends.
That's exactly what she says.
Oh, we can still be friends, right?
Well, it's just business. We can just be friends, right?
Didn't she bring him a sandwich or something?
She brings him cookies.
His favorite cookies. Right. She's like, but not just cookies. She's like, I had Chef whip up your favorite cookies. Can you imagine Chef being like, this bitch? Yeah. He's like, now I gotta make these damn cookies.
And also just Theresa leaning so heavily into being like Mrs. Julian Crane,
right?
When that's not who she's been. You know what I mean? Like you didn't grow up with wealth. Like you didn't grow up like ordering the chef to make you cookies. You know, so but she, you know what? She's leaning in, fine. But yeah, Ethan tries to drive home the point that he's working against her. She's really kind of refusing to hear it. Then she does her little fake dizzy spell thing again, and this time she can see Ethan, so she knows he's gonna like be there to catch her. So she says, "Oh, I feel so dizzy," and Ethan explains to her that he doesn't want anything bad to happen to her or the baby. He like sits her down on the couch, and Theresa asks Ethan to talk to Luis and explain that she has a right to be in the mansion. And he basically tells her, you're on your own, kid. Like, I don't know how many more times I can say I'm working to get you out of here. Right. Like, in my mind, this is my mother's house. Like, let's be clear. This is Ethan's childhood home.
This is his house. Right. This is his house. Like, this is the house he grew up in. I still feel like in most ways, someone in Ethan's position would think of Julian as his father. Like, that's the man, right? You know, like, that's the man who raised. So, like, really, this is in some weird way, like, his would-be stepmother, pregnant with his would-be half-sibling.
Yeah.
Like, this is, like, this. So, there's a lot of barriers that Ethan would have to get over in order to think of this as her house.
No.
And, like, and this is, like,
Ethan's not going for it. He's like, this is my home. All the pain and devastation, how it tortures me inside. All the innocent who suffer from your stubbornness and pride. If y'all know what that's from, that's the Prince of Egypt. I listen to that soundtrack.
It's so good
all the time. I listen all the time.
It's such a good soundtrack.
But that song kind of fits this situation.
No, it's really great.
Those lyrics anyway. So
that might be fun. Like, there's always a musical that can there's always a musical like number that will apply to whatever situation is going on in this show.
I don't always sing every musical that comes into my head, because if I did, we would never get through the show. Like right. Every song that comes into my head, we would never get through it. So anyway, Ethan tells her, you're on your own. Like, I don't think you should be here. This is my mom's house. Like, yep. So then Theresa goes back to talk to Luis and tries to convince him that she should stay in the mansion. Luis gets a call from the police station saying that he needs to check everybody's alibis about Julian's murder because, and we will talk a little bit more about it soon, Ivy has now called the governor to light a fire under the ass of the Harmony PD to figure out who murdered Julian. Right, you know? Right. So I think we're pretty much there Theresa tries to get Pilar to stay at the mansion. Pilar refuses. Blah, blah, blah. We already kind of talked about all of this. Yep. So, let's talk about Rebecca and Ivy and what's going on with the two of them and this plan. Please. So, Rebecca tells Ivy that we're about to do the next step in my plan, right? So, the first step was, what was the first step? I don't even remember.
Well, get the security tapes.
Oh, the security, telling the guy about getting the security tapes. That's Charles. Okay, so the next step is for Ivy to call the governor and get him to light a fire under Sam's ass, right? Ivy doesn't want to do this for multiple reasons. One, she's like, I don't want to get Sam in trouble. Two, she doesn't give a fuck who killed Julian. Right. She's like, do we really want to know who killed Julian? Like, do we really want to?
Right, does it matter?
Then, so she wants her to do this, but Ivy hasn't called yet. Rebecca then calls Charles. He comes in. I think she fucks him. I'm pretty sure they had sex. and then he hands her a tape in exchange for their encounter. And
the woman's IUD must be like top of the line, by the way. She must be, unless we're assuming that she's like no longer able to have kids, so she's just like freely giving it out.
Maybe she got her tubes tied. She does seem like the type to get her tubes tied after her having her one baby.
She's unconcerned with
to be like that one was enough. Tie it up. You know, I've secured Jonathan and whatever with this baby. I'm good. So maybe she does. Then maybe there's just no chance she could get pregnant. Because she does lay it low and spread it wide, doesn't she? So Rebecca gets this tape from Charles, and she says this is gonna land Theresa in the electric chair. And she tells Ivy that the footage on the tape is from the cannery the night that Julian died, and she says that it shows who shot Julian and will put Theresa away. So that convinces Ivy to call the governor, but Ivy has not seen the tape yet. So Ivy calls the governor and says, this is Ivy Crane, Ivy Winthrop Crane is what she says. This is Ivy Winthrop Crane, and I want to know exactly what's being done to find my husband's murderer. And so that is why they're starting to ramp up this investigation in Harmony, because nobody gave a shit, to be honest.
It's really funny, right? No crime goes unsolved in my town.
Case closed. Actually, last week, I don't know if the episode's out yet or not. I don't think it is. Last week, Kay had set fire to Pilar's house, right?
Right.
And Sam brings the fire chief to question Kay. They asked Kay exactly one question, which was, did you see anybody coming or going around Pilar's house? She says no. I shit you not, Sam says, case closed. He's like, no arson here. The worst. So yeah, no, they're not. And he actually likes Pilar, and he wasn't trying to figure out who did burn down her house.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So yeah, they're doing a terrible job with this investigation, because let's be clear, we can see how pregnant Theresa is now. She's like visibly pregnant. And that all happened at New Year's Eve, which at New Year's Eve, it had been about 4 months since Sheridan was gone. Like that was like what we had kind of calculated. It was like 4 months post that. So, and now we're in like May. So it's been months and they haven't done shit.
They haven't done anything.
They haven't done anything on this. So, and honestly, Luis still isn't doing anything. He goes around to everybody and is like, did you see anything that night?
Do you have any more information?
No. Everyone's like, nope.
Case closed.
Nope. Case closed. So Rebecca, Ivy's convinced, she calls the governor. And so then Ivy and Rebecca go to the library to watch the tape. but they're interrupted by Ethan, and they lie about what's on the tape. There's a lot of little rigmarole, shenanigans. Yeah. He leaves, and Rebecca pops the tape in. They watch this, quote, security footage.
Oh my God.
Which is literally just the footage from that episode that Julian was shot. It is what we watched, but in black and white.
In black and white.
So all the angles are exactly the same. They do like close-ups on Julian.
There's close-ups to his face, panning with him as he moves, right? So the camera angle switches to his point of view when he looks down and wobbles. I said, and then it gives us a Dutch angle when he's walking along the platform. When it's like the cinematography on the crane security, but like, what is happening?
Yeah, somebody edited the shit out of that.
It's not a wide shot of the whole room as every security footage would be. And also probably, by the way, multiple security like on one is what it should be. Here is the cannery, and you've got the platform, the door, the this, the that. It should all be on one screen. But no, it's cinematic.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Well, okay. The cinema then turns the picture
camera.
then turns. Yeah. Thank you.
The picture.
You know what, Lisa?
We in a talkie.
The camera then turns, and it's shows the person who shot Julian, and it shows Ethan shooting Julian.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, and at first I was like, oh, okay. I was like, where'd this come from? Well, Ivy immediately thinks that Rebecca is trying to blackmail her and attacks her. Like, she starts pulling her hair, so puts her in a headlock. Rebecca fights her off and is like, you've got it all wrong. We're going to use the tape against Theresa. And then she explains that the video is a fake, a computer generated fake. Ivy still does not understand the plan, which I understand why she doesn't understand the plan. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense on the surface. Ivy doesn't understand the plan. Rebecca whispers it in her ear, so we still don't really hear what it is. Then Luis knocks on the library door while they're watching the surveillance tape. Again, it's just a lot of shenanigans around, like, will they, won't they see it? So nobody's gonna see the tape, okay? And so they manage to hide it, and Luis comes in, questions them about the murder to a very small extent. He's just like, did y'all see anything? What do you remember about that night? Anything else to add? They're like, I don't know. But then Rebecca says, well, there was something. Tabitha read Ivy's tea leaves, and she predicted that Julian was going to die. Like, she read it in the tea leaves. So that sends Luis over to Tabitha's house, which is something we don't see often.
Right.
Tabitha and Luis was an interesting.
I love when you have new people in a scene together and they're forced to interact. I love it.
I wish we could have seen them together a little bit longer, because I was really enjoying it, to be honest.
Yes.
So Luis leaves. But before he leaves the mansion, he talks with Ethan. Ethan asks him to testify against Theresa. So
weird.
And Luis says, yeah, that would probably kill her, but it's for her own good. No, that's where I draw the fucking line.
No.
I draw the line. Like, you don't get to testify against me in court and think that things are going to be fine between us afterwards.
Right. This is, at the end of the day, like, and especially since they try to push this, like, family is so important to them, which they've really got away from, because it feels like just Pilar desperately trying to keep her family together. Not that she has raised, like, family-minded adults. So, like, once in a while you'll get Theresa, like, showing Miguel, like, hey, what's going on with you? Are you okay? And like I love those moments, because you're like, oh yeah, they do like each other as siblings. They care about each other. But mostly it's just everyone trying to talk Theresa out of doing something. But like, this really didn't sit well with me, because now it's like you have told us that at this man's core is his family and protecting his family.
Yeah, and you never go against.
This is not really protecting his family.
Never go against the family. Like,
although when they were like in the beginning of Passions, like episodes 1 through 150, when they're like explaining Luis's relationship to the law, he did say that he gave a ticket to Pilar for jaywalking.
Yeah, but my thing is, legally, Theresa is Mrs. Crane. Right? The law has come down and said there is a ruling, a legal ruling, that Theresa is Mrs. Crane. Yeah. So if you're looking at it that way,
by the way, he's testifying to what? What testimony is he giving?
Theresa, the mama, what's the lady's name? Ivy. Lord Jesus, that Ivy is the rightful, like, Mrs. Crane, like that house should belong to her, basically.
I don't know why he would be qualified to whatever. Okay, fine.
Yeah, okay. I don't either. But Ethan's the lawyer in the situation, so of course he is coming up with silliness. Well, would you be willing to testify to that fact? Like, will you tell everyone?
Right.
But yeah, I was annoyed with Luis for agreeing to testify against Theresa.
Yeah, like, it's fucked up.
That's so fucked up. Yeah. Especially considering he is willing to cover for the fact that she had a gun that night.
Correct. Right. That part. Thank you.
So, moving on. So, his family will raise it. Oh, he starts talking about the baby. He's like, we're not going to let the Cranes come anywhere near this baby, and it's going to have a hard road in life because it's got Crane blood in it, and we're going to have to teach it right from wrong. It's like you have to teach all kids right from wrong.
Right. Says the man who can't get over Sheridan Crane, right? The woman with Crane blood in her cannot get over it. Like, is already planning their like where they're going to build their summer home in the next life, right? Like, he can't get her out of his heart, but like he already, Crane blood. Like it's you are in love with Crane blood, and you're
Okay. He's. Whatever. Luis.
Everyone's a hypocrite.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, he was raised by Pilar. So.
Okay.
Meanwhile, in the library, Theresa walks in on Ivy and Rebecca scheming, and more shenanigans about the tape and them not. And being able to hide it from her, basically. Ethan comes in, who cares? Phyllis comes in, our new maid, my new favorite side character. She comes in to clean the library, which Pilar was like weirdly insistent about, like needing to clean the library, and Phyllis was like, no.
It was like it was suspicious almost.
Phyllis was like, no, this isn't your job anymore. She's like, yes, it is. She's like, no. Maybe it used to be, but it's not now. And she just goes about her business. She does some shit with the tape, but nothing comes of it. They do a gag where she pops the tape in to the VCR. Ivy and Rebecca start to panic, but then what comes up on the screen is just one of Rebecca and Julian,
probably hundreds of sex tapes.
Yeah, one of Rebecca and Julian's like role-playing sex tapes where they're dressed up like Aladdin and Jasmine, and
which, by the way, again is just footage made like episode footage made grainy because there's multiple cameras in the room. Right? There's like at least 2 cameras because they switch between Julian and Rebecca, so it's not even like a wide shot again of her dancing for him, but like there's like cameramen in the room. That's what I'm trying to say, is that during their sexual role playing and dress up, they have at least 2 cameramen in the room.
It's a professional setup,
right? With a steady cam doing the whole like tracking shots. Like, it's a whole thing.
Yeah. So that all happens. Nothing comes of it, of course. Then Ivy and Rebecca are having conversation around this plan. Ivy's still confused about how the plan's going to work, saying she doesn't want to put Ethan at risk. That makes sense. Like, this is From Rebecca's perspective, fine.
Right.
This plan is fine. From Ivy's perspective, is like,
this is real
the
risky.
chance that somebody sees this video and we can't explain it away.
Correct.
Like the stakes for her are so much higher that it's so weird for me that she would go along with this.
It's so risky.
Yeah.
You're sacrificing the one thing you care about.
Yeah. Well, anyway, Ivy's confused. Rebecca kind of explains the plan, saying that nobody's going to ever see that tape except for Theresa. Teresa's going to see the tape, and it's going to force her to confess to the murder to save Ethan. Ivy is skeptical, rightfully so, saying what no woman could love a man that much. And Rebecca says to her, well, how much do you love Sam? And Ivy's like, good point, which is crazy. Like, Ivy considers, I would confess to a murder to save Sam.
Right.
That's crazy. Right. I wouldn't confess to a murder for anybody.
That's crazy.
Well, that I did not commit, and that I believe that they did commit. Unfortunately, I'm not.
I wouldn't confess, but like if I really love that person and we're close, I would go to that person immediately and be like, "There is footage of you shooting, blah blah blah. Yeah, can you please explain, elaborate?"
Would I engage in a cover up for somebody I truly love?
Right. Yes. Right. Yes. But I would not say, I'm not going down for a
goddamn thing. I'm not going down for shit. Do you hear me? So, but to Ivy, this is starting to make sense. She's like, okay, well, yeah, maybe she does love Ethan so much that Rebecca says Theresa would do anything for Ethan, and that will be her undoing.
Smart. It's true. You're not wrong.
True. It's true. She's right. So that's basically the plan right now.
Well, Theresa comes back in, and like again, they're watching the video and like whatever, like the whole fake out. She walks in, she goes, "Oh my God!" And like it cuts to commercial. Then we come back, and then she says, "A Tale of Two Cities." That's my favorite movie.
What?
No, it is. No,
what was that device?
It is not, because that's how they got her to admit that she would die for love. And that's how how.
Her favorite movie was Gone with the Wind, wasn't it?
Yes, of course it's Gone with the Wind. Of course it's a romance. Either it's a rom-com or like a tragic romance. It is absolutely not A Tale of Two Cities. She wasn't even in high school long enough to know about A Tale of Two Cities.
That's not true. She went to high school the same amount of time as the rest of us.
She spent all of her time as Ivy's personal assistant her senior year. She was out on internship her senior year. She was on a work-study program. She absolutely was not in classes.
They definitely did a whole thing about her favorite movie being Gone with the Wind. They did a whole thing where they went to the movie theater and that whole thing.
Yep.
And there was like a mix-up between her and Ethan. So,
but my favorite line, it's not verbatim, but it's not a quote, but like the when I actually chuckled out loud is when she goes, "Oh my," like she goes, "Oh my God," she goes, "I can't believe you're watching A Tale of Two Cities. That's my favorite movie." And then Rebecca says, "Wow, it looks like the three of us have more in common than just Julian." And that's when you're like, "Oh my God, all three of you fuck the same guy. That's great."
What a thing to have in common.
Right?
What an unfortunate thing to have in common.
Is that because their state has the death penalty, is that the state is going to kill Theresa for them when she confesses to the murder.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, it feels whatever. It feels weird that they wouldn't just make footage of Theresa committing the murder and then like showing that to the unless there's a reason you can. This is smarter and more dramatic, and I like it better. But like, I guess Theresa could be like, "That's not me, it's a fake."
Yeah. I thought about the possibilities. I thought about all of the possibilities on with this tape because I did think it's like, yeah, why Ethan? I get it, but a more straightforward thing would be to just frame Theresa. However, there are at least 3 people who saw Theresa that night, and like, yes, there is suspicion around everybody, but I don't know. I don't know if it would work as well. I think she would probably, there's a definite chance that she would get off, basically, right? Versus her confessing. Because the whole point of this is for her to say, I did it.
Right. She's going to sacrifice herself.
Right. I did it. If they just gave out showed the police the tape of her doing it, it's like she can deny it, and then they can go into more depth, and she's gonna deny it vehemently. She's like, I don't know how the fuck I'm on that camera, on that on that video, but I did not do this. And then Louise will be able to kind of cite the whole
I saw her at
remember he was impersonated. You remember? And so he knows what the Cranes are kind of capable of doing in that vein too, of like impersonating people and making things look real that are fake. I just don't think it actually seems more straightforward, but it would not. No, it definitely wouldn't end with her death.
This is smarter.
Yeah, it definitely wouldn't end with her death because there's too much there's too much doubt around it. But for this, there is no doubt. She's going to, if they get her to confess, she confessed. That's it. She did it. Right? I mean, there should be investigation around it.
Sure.
But Rebecca knows how bad Sam is at his job and how bad the police are in this town.
She really understands her audience right now.
She does.
For her.
She's the plan.
She knows how to read
as it might be. It actually makes sense when you think about it in Passion's terms, for sure.
Yeah, and it shows a real understanding for who she's, like, the cast of characters that she's dealing with.
Yeah.
I looked it up, and in 2002, in New England, there are only 2 states that still had the death penalty. Do you want to go something? They are
the 2 states? Oh, okay. Yeah.
Connecticut
go over it.
and New Hampshire. So that means I immediately then looked at a map. And I was like, all right, so I don't know how they're getting back and forth to Boston so quickly, because like if they are in a part of New Hampshire or Connecticut that like faces the ocean, that's at least 2 hours. Whatever.
I think they're in Massachusetts though.
Yeah, but Massachusetts didn't have the death penalty.
They didn't in 2002?
Nope.
The Passions writers also thought that you could still search stuff on the internet once your connection was broken. So
it's true.
I don't think
and that when your computer dies, it slowly pixelates out.
Yeah, I don't think they cared. I think they felt it may. I don't know. I thought
it was in Massachusetts too, but it did not have it. I'm
pretty sure it's Massachusetts. But it might not be. It could be Connecticut, New Hampshire. I don't see.
I can't.
Connecticut, I can see. New Hampshire, I just don't see the richest people in the world. You know, making their homes in New Hampshire,
in Newport, right? They're like, okay.
But Connecticut, maybe. So anyway, Theresa is like talks to Ethan, gives him some cookies, tells him they can be friends. He says to her, you know, you're very special, because this is when she's like, you know, it's just she's doing the cool girl thing. That's what it was that irritated me. She's doing the like, I'm not like other girls, I'm a cool girl. That's exactly what it like felt like.
Cringy.
Where it's like, girl, you should be annoyed that he's fighting against you and trying to get you out of this house. It's not just business, but that's how she's like, no, I get it. I'm cool. It's just business. We can still be friends. You can try to make me homeless and we can still be friends. Like, it's not that serious. So it's the cool girl. I'm not like other girls. I'm a cool girl. So yeah, she's doing that and it's annoying. So that's why Ethan tells her she's very special, and he says, you know, I just want you to be happy. Or no, yeah, she says that. She says that to him. I just want you to be happy. That's all I ever wanted, even though like I made some mistakes and you know, things did go awry. Everything I ever did was so that you would be happy. And he says to her, I know, but it doesn't change anything. So don't get your hopes up.
Good for you.
Good for him.
He's also really guilty of saying things that are like tender, but too tender for someone who is as unstable as Theresa, who hears what she wants to hear. So like good for him, because if he says like, I really care about you, she'll be like, what? You care about me? Really? Yeah. I love you.
After the fire, he told her he loved her, would always love her, and then kissed her. Stupid.
So like, I'm glad he's like now realizing like that he needs to be real clear about his boundaries and be like, yeah, okay.
Whitney shows up wearing the Jamaican flag for some reason.
100%. Thank you so much. What is happening?
I was like, I don't know why she's wearing the Jamaican flag. I don't get it.
Like her sweater is the Jamaican flag.
I didn't get it. Then Theresa starts going overboard, trying to make Ethan feel very comfortable, despite the fact that he's working against her, actively working against her. She's just like, yeah, I just want you to be comfortable in my home. I don't know. I didn't love it. I don't like this version of Theresa, to be honest. Whitney's worried about Ivy, and Rebecca, of course, saying like, girl, you're worried about giving him cookies. You need to be worried about those two bitches over there scheming in the corner. And so then that's when Theresa goes over, takes that device they were watching. What was it that they were watching the tape on?
It was so weird. It felt like a very classic, like late 90s, early 2000s, like tech gear that probably existed for like a year when they were like, oh, this is going to be a super cool thing. And then like immediately got shut down because like Blu-ray was a thing. So like it seemed to be the equivalent of like a tablet that you could watch VHS tapes on.
It didn't even look big enough to put a tape into.
It did not look big enough.
It was like, it looked like a Polaroid camera to me. Like it was small.
Like a big one, but I think it popped up. I think the screen like popped up.
Yeah, I was like, what the hell is this device? Also, why are y'all they were literally watching the surveillance tape in the foyer. How you say it? Do you say foyer?
I don't say it because I don't have one.
Foyer.
I think it's foyer.
I say foyer.
No, it's foyer.
I always want to say foyer, like French foyer, because that's what it is. It's
in French, it would be foyer. Foyer.
Whatever. They're in the breezeway. They're in the entryway. Watching that damn video, the surveillance video.
A concrete knoll. Yeah.
Somehow when Theresa grabs the thing, because we see the video of Ethan shooting Julian. And then somehow when Theresa grabs the thing, it's a tale of two cities. I was like, okay, whatever. I don't care. It's her favorite movie. Fine, whatever. In order to convince Ivy that her plan is going to work, Rebecca sits down on the couch and starts to chat up Ethan about Julian. And Ethan makes his true feelings about Julian quite known. I hated the man. He deserved to die for what he did to Theresa. What he did to me was bad, but what he did to Theresa, he deserved to die for that. I'm not upset that he's gone. He made my mother miserable. Like, just a laundry list of like reasons, motives that he could have for murder, right? Of course, Theresa's listening in on all of this. She's so moved by his nefarious intent, honestly, that saying like, oh, yeah, I didn't kill him, but if I did, it would be justified, basically. And so she's moved by it. And Theresa's like, if there's ever a time when I can sacrifice for Ethan, I'm gonna do it. So we already know where this is going. So yeah, Ivy's on board with the plan. Rebecca's Rebecca's thrilled. She's like, yeah, see, she's gonna do it. She's gonna confess to this murder. So
okay.
At that point, Rebecca and Ivy take the tape outside. Rebecca hands it to some random man outside. She comes back inside. He immediately knocks on the door. Theresa goes and gets the door, makes a crack about how she shouldn't be answering the door because she's like,
it's so gross.
Yeah. But anyway, she goes to the door. She opens it. The man's like, I've got something that you're going to want to see, Mrs. Crane. And so there we go. He delivers the tape
right away.
Yeah. All right. Oh, Lord, we're running long today, but
sorry.
No, it's fine. Do you have anything to add on that? There's not much to talk
There's not much. I did want to say there were two lines that kind of bothered me. Number one, like, I hate that they keep switching between Theresa being a victim and who's just trying to survive and like do what's best for her family. And then they just show flashes of her being this entitled bitch, and I don't get it. Like,
I agree.
Even like she's like, you know what? I'm here to make peace. I'm not going to kick you out of your rooms. I wouldn't dream of that. Like, you can still stay here and live here until I am named the official whatever. Like, you guys can stay. And then like fast forward and then she walks in on them watching TV and she's like, I said you could stay in your rooms, not watch movies in the library. And it's like ew.
Yeah.
Like, this, either you're living here or you're not. And also like the way she was with Pilar and like the door answering, like, when I call a servant I expect them to come right away.
Yeah.
Because it's not who she is, and I don't know why the writers are doing that. I know it's just it really betrays their character. And also there was one line that sort of hit me. It was stupid and is probably not worth mentioning, but like, sometimes they give Ivy great dialogue and sometimes they give her stuff that's very clunky and doesn't work. And she's at one point, Bex like lights up and she's like, I have an idea. And Ivy says, what? You look like you just discovered the cure for cellulite, is what she said. And I was like, oh, it just felt clunky and it was too wordy and it didn't really fit into the scene. And I was like, I was like, oh, that's not a great line. But also it sort of, for me, like, made me think about the writer's perception about women and women's bodies and also women's priorities. Like the fact that like, you must be excited because you figured out a way to get rid of this thing that plagues us all women. Am I right, ladies? Like, so that was gross. That like at the end of the day, it really revealed a lot about the writers and how their views about women.
Yeah.
But then also in another way, it's sort of like, but like my younger self would have been like, God, I wish there was a cure for cellulite. Like, my younger me, like, I was so self-conscious at that age. And like, there were girls in my class that most of them, I went to school with a lot of skinny white girls, and like, they did not have cellulite. Like, when I looked down, I had to be careful of the way I like sat on a chair with my legs. And this was before like body positivity really like swept our country. We're not there, but like, I was really happy that the line like felt clunky and that it didn't work because it just felt like very old. It sounds like we don't make those jokes about women's bodies anymore because that's what a healthy body has.
Yeah.
So it was like a little time capsule about like these, we wouldn't hear this anymore because of course she has cellulite and like, that's just part of being a woman who had children and whatever. I didn't have children. I have it.
I love when those little moments do happen that remind me how far we have come. Right, because
it feels like we have backslid in many, 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 many ways, and continue to like. But we really have evolved in a way that like, okay, like that you wouldn't hear that joke. There's a lot of jokes you would not hear anywhere. But like that, it really like like as a society, but also like personally. That I was like 20 years ago, I would have been like, oh man, I should be embarrassed about it. I hope they do find out a way to get rid of it. But now it was like, how dare you? That is part of a healthy body.
Yeah.
So like also like personal growth in my relationship to my own body. I still don't like, want to parade it around, but also like, I'm like so much more comfortable with my body than I was when I was in my 20s.
Same. Oh my God. Yeah.
No, which is crazy because I look better than I did. I look like I look better, but also like I don't like when I look at myself, I was like, why did I think I was fat? It's so weird.
The thing too now for me is like now we're just off on a tear. But
yeah, sorry. Sorry.
But one thing that I do think about like in relation to like the body positivity and everything, for me, it's not even about being positive about my body. It's just not being negative about it. Right? Like I don't have to see everything and like everything I see, but accepting it and being like, that's what it is. Like that's what it is. What it is. And there are parts that I like, and there's parts that I wish might could look better, but they don't. And it is what it is. All bodies come in different shapes and sizes. They all look different. And the only reason we even worry so fucking much about our bodies is because we're concerned about how other people will perceive us. Right? Like, if you didn't have all of these messages around saying, like the cellulite stuff, right? Like all of these things telling you, well, this is how you need to look, especially for women. You need to be this size or smaller. You need to have this texture of hair. You need to have these types of features. You need to be considered beautiful by very specifically and very often by men, right? Like this idea that like you're not going to be desirable to men if you look, and
we're going to airbrush that stuff out of photos, and we don't want to show this stuff to men because they won't like it.
Yeah.
Right.
And the thing is, I've never had a single complaint.
I don't think they notice. Like, for how oblivious we know that men are, we are really overly concerned with them noticing details like that, when really, like, 2 lumps on a tree will give them a boner. Like, for the most part, like, looks like tits. Done. Like, why are we so worried?
I do not concern myself with the male gaze. I do not concern myself with what somebody else is going to find attractive on me. What do I find attractive on me? How do I look in the mirror and say, oh, girl, yes. When does that happen? And I just recreate that for myself. I can't be worried about it but that's what that's what capitalism gives you, honestly. Like they find those insecurities in us, and they sell us everything they possibly can to tell us you're not good enough, but you can be if you spend this money and buy this thing.
If you buy this thing. If you do this thing.
If you buy this thing. Anyway, y'all, we're going to get off of this, and we're going to talk about magic.
Let's talk about magic.
All right, let's talk about this damn zombie and the bird of Mordred.
Not much happens, actually.
Huh?
Not much happens.
No, very little.
There's a lot of just talking. Nothing happens. Very little action.
We can zoom this. The zombie is waiting for the bird of Mordred to come back and tell her where is Timmy? What are his whereabouts, right? She's like, to Tabitha, she's like, are you sure the bird didn't show up? You haven't seen the bird? Meanwhile, Tabitha's eating the bird.
Tabitha, through mouthfuls of poultry, says, I'm sure.
It's great.
Like, fantastic.
And also, zombie also ate some of this bird earlier. Like, she's eaten some of the bird too. So, like, the bird is gone. But Tabitha tells her, I don't know. No. Birds are crazy. And so Tabitha then tries to convince the zombie. Again, they've been having the same conversation for weeks, where Tabitha tries to convince the zombie to forget about trying to kill Timmy, and the zombie's like, no, he has to die, and once he's dead, you're gonna die too. Meanwhile, Timmy is on the road again. Just can't wait to get on the road again. Timmy's out on the road. I love Timmy on an adventure. I'm loving adventure Timmy. I am. He's learning important lessons left and right, and I love that for him. So he's on the road with his biker friend who he picked up at a biker bar, who's supposed to be helping him out, right? They stop for a while to rest, and he meets this dog that just comes up to him. The dog looked like the dog from Wishbone, but also Lisa pointed out to me before we started recording that he also kind of looks like Eddie from Frasier. And Lisa loves Frasier and just learned that I also love Frasier, and we were thrilled about that. I was thrilled to hear that you love Frasier.
It's because there's not, especially it's like it wasn't for my demographic, I don't think. Like, I was young watching Frasier and like feeling smart. And then I remember that at one point in The Simpsons, in one of the episodes, oh my God, Niles, oh my God, David Hyde Pierce, right? He plays all my nouns have left me. Yes, but in The Simpsons, he plays what's his name's brother.
I don't know how to watch
anyway, so at one point, Bart like goes behind him and holds his eyes, and he goes, "Guess who?" And he goes, "Maris." And I thought that was like, I loved that I got that joke, and like no, and the people in the room did not get that joke, and I was like, you don't watch Frasier.
You need to watch Frasier. Y'all all need to watch Frasier. It is so funny. We're off on a tangent, but
sorry. It's just, you know what? It's just such a high quality show. Like the writing and the cast, it's distinct with the storytelling. It's like, it's so well written and well shot and well edited, and this is not. So it's just
it is the opposite of Passion.
Such a stark contrast.
It was on the same network though. They both came on NBC.
Oh my God. Okay.
All right. So anyway, back to
so Passion. Anyway, so Eddie from Frasier comes in and hangs out with Timmy for a while.
Yes, and Timmy has conversations with him. Unfortunately, y'all, again, the sound was cutting out because I guess there was a song playing. I didn't care enough to go find out what Timmy was saying. Timmy was saying something to the dog from time to time, but there would be music playing over it. But basically, what I gleaned from it was that he was lonely. He missed Tabitha. He wanted to figure out how to save Charity. Like, those were like the main things that I heard on the end of like when the sound would come back in. That was what he was talking about. And he was, I think he was probably recapping to Toto what is going on. Right. So that the viewers know, why is Timmy out and about by himself with this random biker? And so Timmy is talking to this dog, and then he starts to cry. He's like confused about like, why is Timmy crying? And it's because he's having like human emotions, and he's thinking about Charity. He's thinking about Tabitha. He likes this dog. Right. He feels bad for the dog who's on his own. And so Timmy's kind of sad. So he calls Tabitha to cheer himself up, and he gives her
on his cell phone that he has because it's 2002.
He calls Tabitha on his cell phone.
Okay.
And she picks up. And she tries to hide the fact that she's on the phone with Timmy from the zombie, because the zombie wants to know where Timmy is, right? So she thinks she has successfully hidden the fact that she's on the phone with Timmy. I rewound what she said to the zombie when the zombie asked her who was on the phone. I could not understand it. And I took that to believe that the zombie also didn't understand what she said, because I felt like her British accent got like extra thick, and that she was just saying like nonsense words. I didn't know. I had no clue what she was saying. And I rewound it at least 4 times, and I could not figure out what she was saying.
Did you put it on subtibs?
I did, and it couldn't figure out what she was saying.
It couldn't figure it out what she was saying.
Yeah, and
I didn't even notice.
Well, okay. She thought she successfully like ran the zombie off her trail, basically. But the zombie, of course, goes to the kitchen and picks up the other line and listens in. But she's whispering in the phone at the same time, and we're supposed to believe that they can't hear her on the phone. But did you ever pick up the phone and listen to somebody else's conversation, or did you hear somebody else pick up the phone when you hear it immediately when they pick up?
Immediately. You stop talking immediately. You're like, hold on.
Yeah.
Mom? Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So Timmy wants to tell Tabitha where he is, but Tabitha's like, don't say anything. I don't want to know, because what if the zombie uses some mind reading magic on me?
So smart. I actually like appreciated that someone like there was like, yeah, no, thank you. This is better.
Yeah.
That she could do something.
Yeah. So Timmy gets off the phone with Tabitha, and he decides, it's time to
not yet.
No?
Not yet. No, because then Tabby hangs up. Oh, wait, does she? Because at some point she calls back. No? Charity calls back as Tabby.
No, no. She's on the phone. She stays on the line. If I remember correctly. Oh, maybe she did call back. Maybe she did call back. Maybe she did.
I think she called back because she was like, on second thought, Tim, tell me where you are. Just knowing where you are will make me feel so comfortable.
Yeah, she does.
Which I thought was good because I was like, this whole time I'm watching these two bitches, I'm like, can someone use some magic? We can't even call this the magic. We can't even call this the magic storyline. This is just like a bad like roommate comedy. Like at this point, it's so annoying.
Well, they had the bird of Mordred, and she
were
did use
eating-
magic. She did use magic to cook the bird.
That was before. It's like there's just no magic. Like that's what they're using their magic for, just to like do normal stuff. And I was like, at least, all right, you threw your voice. That was some element of magic to make it sound like Timmy, which I kind of liked. I thought that was smart. I was like, ooh, that's good.
Yeah, she impersonates Tabitha and tries to get him.
Bursts in, and she's like, "Don't tell him, Timmy's not me."
Exactly, perfect. Because I can't do the impression, so that was perfect.
That was not great.
And so Timmy hangs up, and then the zombie. Is this when she attacks Tabitha? Yes. So the zombie just starts like physically attacking Tabitha, and like you said, not using magic. She is bare hands. Gets her hands on her, wrestles her to the ground, pulling her hair. This is when Luis shows up to the house. So he hears a little bit of commotion. He thinks that Tabitha's in trouble. He knocks on the door. Zombie goes and hide because Tabitha's like, you know, you'll be found out if he comes in here and sees this. What are you gonna do then, basically? So she goes and hides. Luis comes in. That's when Luis and Tabitha have their conversation about the tea leaves and the past lives. I
do like that she keeps trying to find ways to keep Luis there because normally, like, and because she doesn't want Charity to come back out to like hurt her, so she's like, how about some tea? Have a seat. Like he just like doesn't want to be left alone with her. But I do like these two together. I thought it was a great scene.
He asks her about Julian's murder, basically, and she's like, oh, I hope you don't think I had anything to do with that. And he's like, oh, no. We already have people who can corroborate your alibi, like where you were. But Rebecca mentioned that something about some tea leaves that you had predicted Julian's murder. And she's like, oh, yes, I did do that. That did happen. And then she says, you know, my predictions always come true. That's what she said.
And he's like, no offense, I don't believe any of that. And she's like, that's cool. Doesn't matter if you believe it. It comes true.
Ask Sheridan. So she basically brings up Sheridan's like, too bad she had to die so soon. You know, I read her tea leaves too.
Dance pub is dance.
No.
What's that? Now you're interested?
And she says, you know, I read her tea leaves. I read Sheridan's tea leaves, and unfortunately, like I couldn't see her future, but I did see her past. And she tells him about like the past life on the Titanic, and he's like, yeah, she did tell me about that, and whatever. It's all the stuff we already know about the past lives, but it was fun to see them. It was nice to see that conversation had by somebody else. I guess I am very much over like the past lives stuff personally.
Yep.
Because they're not doing anything with it really. Like it's weird because they're doing too much and nothing at the same time.
Correct. Especially if you have a big picture like idea of where the show is going, you're like, and then it really feels like your time is being wasted.
Yeah.
Like it's just, I hate it.
Yeah. So
anyway,
Tabitha goes to the kitchen. Zombie considers killing her and Luis, but then doesn't. It was stupid. Luis finally leaves, and then the zombie starts throwing stars into the sky.
Yep.
From the kitchen. So there's your magic. She's throwing stars into the sky, like these little like foil cutout stars, throwing them up into the sky from the kitchen. Like she opens up the roof of the house, and you can see the sky. She starts throwing the stars, and it writes a message that says, "Surrender, Timmy," like the Wicked Witch, of the West. Surrender, Dorothy.
And it's not on the news, by the way. No one has covered this, right? This doesn't like no one like if people like everyone looking at the sky would have seen Surrender, Timmy.
Maybe she did the thing kind of like what Tabitha did with the book, where once you read it, you forget or something.
Okay. Oh my God.
She does the Surrender, Timmy. Timmy sees it. He's decided to stay with the dog instead of going with his biker friend, right? He names the dog Toto, so we're doing a Wizard of Oz thing.
Right. So it's just another element that they can do to reinforce that we're doing a Wizard of Oz thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So
He walks a
Yeah.
little.
Yeah, he walks a little bit and he sees like a spigot that he can get some water out of for the dog, and he tries to like get it on. And then he sees a couple of youths.
Some youths.
He thinks they're up to no good, and they actually help him turn on the water. And he's like, "Oh, you guys are pretty all right." And they're like, "Yeah, man, we were hoping to go to this store to get something to drink, but this idiot left his keys inside. You know, he works here." And Timmy's like, "Oh, well, that's too bad. Too bad we can't get into the store." And the kids are like, "Well, maybe there's a way." And they say, "Well, we can't, but you can, because you're so small. You can crawl in through this tiny little opening, like a air shaft or something." I don't know what it was. Was it what was it? It was just like a
I thought it was just a window that was left open. No, it was a shaft. I don't know.
Yeah, because it was tiny and it was on the ground. So anyway,
the air duct. Okay, well, yeah.
Yeah, like an air duct, but he could get out of it. I don't know.
Yeah.
He crawls inside. He gets inside, and then he hears those kids like making fun of him. Broke my little heart, really.
No,
broke my heart. Making fun of him, saying he's so gullible and stupid, and because they're trying to rob the store. They don't. Yes. Yeah, they're not interested in. Well, they haven't told him the truth, and so that's really where we leave it off with Timmy. He hasn't opened the door for them yet, because their plan was for him to get inside and open the door for them once he got inside. He hasn't opened the door for them yet, but he's in a tough situation, because what does he do? You know, just sit there, wait till they leave.
And then he like also he was like, "Well, technically, you broke into you're the one who broke into the store, not us. That makes you a burglar too." I was like, he hasn't burgled anything.
Yeah,
like he hasn't stolen anything. I don't know if that makes him a trespasser. I don't know if it makes him doesn't make him a burglar. You know what I kind of want to know? I want to know, do they think, like, in their world, when they see Timmy, how old do they think he is? This is really interesting to me, because I don't know if they think that he is a young adult, you know, who has a medical condition, or if they just really think he is a little kid. I don't know. What do they think? Like, because it really colors how they interact with him. Are they treating him like he's 7, or are they treating him like just the way they would treat any other like little person who's like happens to be 20?
I think that's a good question. I also had similar thoughts, like, what is it? How old is Timmy? I think that's my question too. Is like, how old is Timmy actually? Like, what's the age that we're supposed to believe that he is? I think he's supposed to be, in their story, right, between him and Tabitha, I think he's supposed to be about the age of the teenagers. I think he's supposed to be like 14. So maybe they see him maybe they see him like that, like a tween.
Not an adult. I mean, good for them if they do, but in a way. I don't. Yeah, it's just hard to tell if they think that he's, because she's also my nephew, but like she was carrying him around. I don't know. I don't know if they think he's a little person, or if they actually think he's like a child.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
we haven't, to be fair too, we haven't seen Tabitha carry him around with everybody else since he became a real boy.
Right. But like they did. But no, then since she was like, "Oh, that was the doll. This is the real person. That was the doll of the real person." Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, it was an interesting thing. I was just like, I wonder, like, in this world, do they think they're talking to like a little kid, or are they talking to a little person who's like, anyway.
The world may never know. So that's where we left off this week. We have so much more to go on this show, but
so much.
We've made it pretty far. So before we go, Lisa, is there anywhere you want people to find you online? You want people to follow you at all?
No. Find me in bed. I'm not going.
Okay, got it. Gotcha. All right. So with that, because y'all know where to find me. If you want to find me, just search Passions Podcast. I'll be there. So with that, you are my passion for life.